Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Gwent Open number 1, the alternative cast, day number 2, where yes, we do indeed have beer. That was kind of messy.
I love how.
And today I'm joined on the casting desk by the spectacular Spiro, the spicy specimen, and the lovable Lance.
I've got water today, by the way. I've not got beer. I'm starting with water, mate. That's what I've got.
Time to cleanse the system, it seems. All right, got exciting games today. So, what happened yesterday? We started with 8. Now we have 4. We have gone down to, I believe, it is going to be ForeverYOLO versus Tailbot. We have Piable versus Bot, and those are going to be 2 semifinals. Who is going to walk away with the crown of the first Gwent Open champion of Season 3? Who is it going to be?
I would like to point out that reminder there. It wasn't for the people in the chat. That was for Quill and Specimen, so they remember what happened yesterday, given the inebriation levels going on in the fourth semi-final. But yeah, let's make some predictions. So current scores on the predictions. Me and Specimen, we are currently winning. We got 3 out of our 4 predictions right. Then we have Spiro, who got 2 out of 4 right. And how did you do, Quill?
No comment.
Yes, not lost.
You got at least 1 right, yeah?
No.
Oh, no.
I'm just happy I'm not lost.
Yeah, I'm refusing to pick from here on out. It's going to be that's why I lost, because I just didn't want to play. It's okay.
Okay, so first up we have ForeverYOLO versus Tailbot. So apparently Quill's not playing anymore. He's throwing his toys out of the pram because he's not winning. So you got to make a call. Who's team ForeverYOLO?
If you guys want a 100% win rate, just follow me and I'll lead the way. Just here we go. Okay. So game number 1, listen up. Game number 1, Tailbot.
I'm listening.
All right. Game number 2, Piable. Game number 3, Piable. There we go. There's your prediction. Easy game.
Bessie, what you got?
I'm going to go for a ForeverYOLO versus Bart final, because nobody else will go for that. And then ForeverYOLO is going to take it all.
Okay, that's a pretty bold prediction. So my problem at the moment is that Team Glasses doesn't really work in this first match because they both have glasses, right? We've got ForeverYOLO and we've got Tailbot. So now I actually have to think about tactics. And I'm thinking Tailbot, he's trying to target that Nilfgaard double cross list. And lo and behold, ForeverYOLO, he's got that Nilfgaard double cross list. So tactically thinking, I might go for Team Tailbot. So Spiro predicted Tailbot, who isn't in the competition, so he automatically loses that one, just for the record.
What? Excuse me?
Yeah, sorry, there's no Tailbot in this competition. We only have Tailbot.
That's cheating.
There's also no Piable. It's Alexander, right?
Yeah.
Then between Bart and Piable. So Bart went for the same lineup as Tailbot. So arguably,
you see, you just did it, Jagras. What do you mean Tailbot? You mean Tailbot?
Tailbot, yeah. So he went for the same lineup as Tailbot. So arguably, Bart should be favored against Piable.
Well,
however,
Pia's the only player, right, Jag, that hasn't got Nilfgaard. So
he doesn't have Nilfgaard. That's
yeah.
I was going to say.
I think, like, looking at the lineups, I think Bart and Tailbot's lineups, because they've got the same lineup. I think Kelly is the difference, and AQ. I would say like Tailbot's is my favorite, but then when you look at Pia with no Nilfgaard, that could help him out quite a bit. So yeah, that's why ForeverYOLO is going to win it all. The dark horse, right?
And well, what I was going to say is that Piable is currently, I believe, undefeated in his tournament, like last few tournaments. Like he won the Open number 8, Open 8, Open 7.
He's won the last 3.
Yeah, then he won a Masters. Then he won and then he won the qualifier that he was in. Yeah. Like he's very successful.
Masters,
so by that,
and this will be the 3rd in a row if he wins.
Yeah. So by that logic, he's the most successful Gwent player of all time, possibly. So then I feel like I gotta back my homeboy Piable, which gives us a Piable Tailbot final. And then Piable doesn't have, but this is the same prediction as Spirit, which is fine.
Did you just net deck me? No.
No, I picked Tailbot. I made one change. You picked Tailbot, right? I picked Tailbot, so it's my predictions now.
Hopefully, Brazil's not in the chat to criticize this net decking moment here.
Also, if I pick the same lineup as Spiro, then Spiro can't beat me in the
Wait,
predictions.
wait, that's actually cheating. Wait.
So I automatically
Five-head.
win. Let's do that.
It's
I
kind
mean,
of
the
a
thing is,
five-head
guys,
play, actually.
you've gone for both the favourites, and you're claiming like that you've got this crazy idea, this crazy predictions no one's going to see coming. When I think it's what everyone would probably go for if they had to put their life on it.
I've decided to pick a winner now, and the real winner is Chat's mom. So,
Oh my god. We need to ban
Good
Quill.
thing I'm
We
not
need
in
to
the
act-
chat. Oh wait. Oh.
we
oh,
actually-
I'm just gonna
that's that Keck weight moment right there.
So, well, the thing is, like, yes, they are the more favored players. But yesterday, I didn't go for favorite players. I went for players with glasses and social media. So you can't be like, oh, but Jaggers always picks the favorites, because that didn't happen yesterday.
Well,
Like a
predicts-
hipster.
Chat's mom, as that is his way.
so out of yesterday, what was your guys' favorite games? Which ones did you guys enjoy the most?
That last one was Specimen's favorite game. He fucking loved.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was like loving that Gravish Piable game number 4. I know that he was really enjoying that when
Yeah.
Gravish didn't draw his ball.
I mean, like all it took was just like a rewatch of the series from yesterday that Max put together. Like game 2, that was Cams versus Quill. I was loving it. I was so hyped. And by game 5, by the final game, I was like, yeah, and looks like Paj is taking it. Like I was not a happy bunny. I really did enjoy the Cams versus Tailbot series though. Like the fact that Cams got that win over Syndicate to begin with. I thought he was just going to go on and take it, but then Tailbot brought it back, and we saw that Nilfgaard mirror as well. We saw both times yesterday, I believe, when the Nilfgaard player tried to push round 2 in the mirror, actually getting punished for it. So maybe we might see some more like long round 3 action where it's kind of the fiesta of the board clogging going on today. But yeah, definitely the Tailbot Cam series was my top pick.
Yeah, I love
liked
a good
it.
fiesta.
I was going to say I liked the bit. I wouldn't say it was like the top tier of competitive Gwent. I wouldn't say it was the pinnacle of competitive Gwent by any means. However, when Red Rame and Bart decided to have a fight over Brathens, of who Brathens was more attracted to, and that Brathens Brathens was clearly playing the two of them. Like I don't know what Brathens has got going on, or Money in the Bank perhaps, but both of them clearly wanted a slice of that action, and it turned out that Red Ring got the Brathens in the end but lost the series, and that was fun from a casting perspective, although I don't know if it was particularly smart from a play perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I must say my favorite was the first one, I think, with ForeverYOLO versus Shaggy. Looked like ForeverYOLO was just kind of crumbling apart under the pressure there, but then, he started getting the YOLO jams, and then he brought it back, and we ended up getting a 3-2 reverse sweep. Really, really exciting series that one was.
Quill,
Yep.
are you typing in the chat again?
No comment.
Well, what was your
Just tell
best,
by the
what
little
was your best
smirks,
moment
right?
of yesterday?
My best moment of yesterday, I mean, kind of like what we were saying a little bit in the beginning, kind of losing my memory towards the end of that one there yesterday. But yeah, I mean, obviously the Paya and Gravish series was a little bit unfortunate. And, you could see it in Paya's face right at the end. He wasn't happy either. And you just got to kind of feel for your teammate there. I did pretty much enjoy the Cams and Tobliat game that we casted. So, there's some quite hype moments. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I did still kind of enjoy being absolutely hammered at the end of it. So
I also do want to make a quick shout out. Shout out to CDPR if you're watching. Given yesterday when we pointed out that on the main broadcast they'd written head butt as 2 words, so head capitalized and then butt capitalized, so it read as just head butt play. And then we pointed that out, and lo and behold, a few minutes later, head butt the B became uncapitalized. So I don't know if that was a coincidence, you guys. So shout out to CDPR.
spies.
not sure they like my constant references to butt play for the next hour.
They were like, oh no.
By the way, just want to give a quick little, let's call it a leak of a leak. I would definitely stick around to the end of the stream today. We got something to share with you guys at the end, so make sure that you guys are around at the end of the stream because there is some information or some news you guys might want to stick around for. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I wonder what it is. I already know what it is. Also, just as a reminder, if you do subscribe to the Team Leviathan Gaming Twitch channel, all of the money from subscriptions is being fed back into Gwent esports. So we're trying to, be able to support things like the Quill and Lance Cup, support things like the Invitational, and have more community esports by, using the money that we raise through our esports to fund further esports. So also you get some cute emotes, and who doesn't love a 2-0 emote? The answer is nobody.
Good old final.
Yeah, so
I love it as vinyl.
Obviously, the other thing that's going on today is we've of course got the Gwent, so we're going to start off soon. Jag and Spyro doing the first game, which is Tailbot versus ForeverYOLO. Then Quill and I have got Bart versus Paya. After that, there's like a 49-minute developer stream, which is going to be Slama and Berzer, I believe, where they're talking about the leaks and maybe what we should be expecting in the upcoming patch. So Quill and I are going to be watching that with you as well before Spyro and Jag do the final. So that's honestly the part that's most exciting for me on Opens. As much as I love Gwent Esports, I also really enjoy the developer streams and seeing what is coming next. Hopefully, some NR cards are coming our way. That's what I'd like to see.
Let's make some predictions. What are you hoping to see?
If I don't see an Alchemist nerf, I'm gonna re. Just saying.
Sparrow's gonna re. Okay, so that's a given. Quill, what are you hoping for?
Henselt needs to make a return. He needs to come back, and I'm gonna play him for another 2,500 games straight.
Especially anything from NR specifically?
Yeah, like the Meave and Foltest cards that we got a couple months ago, I would love to see them buffed or reworked somewhat because they're just not playable. Also, leader abilities just across the board is probably my biggest thing I would love to see. Just like an overhaul of the provisions on leaders. Like you look at Double Cross with its 17 provisions, and it just seems like, how is this still the case? It's kind of part of the beauty of the provision system that we could maybe make some changes that could, keep the game fresh. I'm not expecting that, to be honest. I'm more expecting to see like a few reworks. Hopefully, like, for example, Northern Realms could get, I don't know, some of its 4 provision cards made more engine heavy, as it seems as though they've got sort of the worst 4 provision engines in the game. It's only really the Trident. So I would love to see just some love to the Northern Realms because it's only Witches at the moment that are seeing any play, and some machines, all that kind of stuff would be good.
Yeah, speaking of Northern Realms, I think no one yesterday bringing Northern Realms.
Yeah.
Actually 0% player it, so definitely would be nice to see Northern Realms back in the meta, hopefully next season.
And my hope is for Dagon. I've decided that it's pronounced Dagon because it's like dragon, but without an R, right? See, look, you've got to think about the language that you've got. So you wouldn't say dragon for dragon, would you? You'd say dragon, so therefore Dagon.
You're about to make the entirety of Twitch chat re.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping we get some Dagon.
Dagon. Oh boy. I mean, at this point, I think Dagon must be the most elusive thing that everyone just wants all the time. But are we ever going to get it at this point? I'm starting to lose hope. I would love to see Dagon come back.
No, we're not going to get Dagon. I told you we're going to get Dagon. That's the problem. People ask me for Dagon. What's a Dagon? Nobody even knows.
We have Quill here with all your mom jokes, and we got Jagras here trying to infuriate chat.
Kind of like what we said yesterday. I'm just the degenerate version of Jagras. I just take all the pun power and put it into your mother. So
she's into that though, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, moms love dad jokes, right? You see. I think about these things. Oh dear. This is how we mean to go on, right? Like this is how we're starting. We've got to set the bar.
It only gets better from here, chat.
Oh, can't get worse.
That sounds like a challenge to me. Spiro, I only drank 2 beers yesterday, and neither of them was Stella. I feel like this is like
you're a Stella drinker.
Mum. Yeah, well, no.
Yeah, Mum. Yeah, you're gonna go.
It's called wife beater.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. You're gonna finish your can of Stella and then go and
beat up some wives. No.
Exactly.
So the argument is, well, I bought Peroni and I had 4 Peronis. I was like, I'm going to drink Peroni. I'm going to be that kind of person. And I came downstairs to the kitchen and lo and behold, someone had stolen one of my Peronis. So I stole a Stella in return. So yeah, this is why we're drinking Stella at the moment.
I think you guys need to detox. That's what I think.
The
Yeah.
best
You're
detox
leaving.
is retox.
Is Quill or Spessy drinking today? Are you going to be?
I am, yeah. Like the thing is
Have
with
you-
me, I didn't drink all of last year until Christmas. When I had COVID, I was self-isolating, so I just got hammered on stream Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and I've not really been drinking since until last night. So Twitch has just turned into like my outlet for binge drinking. So we're gonna go again today for sure. It's just taken me a while to warm up. I'm still half asleep. My voice sounds weird as well. Someone pointed out I can't even talk properly. Beer.
Sure, Spacey. Remember, Spacey, just make sure you articulate your words very carefully and explain things very, very slowly so we can all understand you.
Yeah, so yesterday I was trying to keep it together, and I think I was casting quite a lot like this. Gravesh has the ball in hand, and he's taken the mulligan, and then Spyro just comes in and flames me in chat for talking like this, and I was like, oh shit.
That was honestly the best part of the cast, I think.
Oh no, the best part for me was when you kept calling Gravesh Colin. I don't know why, that just got me. Gravesh being called Colin. I can't like combine the idea that Gravesh is Colin in my head. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit.
I mean,
It's like,
that's yeah. It was a revelation for me as well. I was just very obsessed with this idea of him having an actual name.
on his birth certificate, it says Gravesh as his first name and then Gravesh as his last name. That's why it was Gravesh because his parents they really loved the name Gravesh. So that's
even
a true
is
story.
Gravesh? It's like German gravy.
Gravesh is German gravy.
Gravy and butt play.
Oh dear. And also, I learned what a Sag was yesterday. I feel like I've come so far in life.
And you also learned Madge. Congratulations.
Yeah. I know. I'm like down with the cool kids now. I feel like I'm getting past my whole millennial thing. You know that like young people make fun of millennials now? Can you believe it? They think we're uncool. I'm shook. I'm shook.
We're already boomers.
Any Zoomers in the chat?
Any Zoomers in the chat? There's definitely Zoomers in the chat.
What is the I feel like the years are so arbitrary. Like what makes what's the year separation for Zoomer and millennial right now?
I'm a millennial.
I'm a millennial.
I'm also a millennial. I think everyone here is a millennial.
I'm a Zoomer. I know what you're talking about.
Say something a Zoomer would say.
I got an epic victory royale last night.
I don't. Nah, the Zoomers are more like, oh, it's the 2 O's for me, or like that kind of thing. It's the top decks for me. They say stuff like that. I don't know what it means, but that's something that they say.
Boomers trying to be Zoomers.
And then there's the boomers in the chat are just here for Quill. Let's be real. The boomers in the chat, you know, the moms.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So first game of the day is Tailbot versus ForeverYOLO. If ForeverYOLO does it, gotta be probably one of the biggest upsets of Gwent esports. No, like coming out on top over Shaggy. First of all, like even making the qualifier, right, kind of came out of nowhere. And then also if he can beat Tailbot as well. So we can take a quick look at ForeverYOLO's deck lists. First of all, his line pockets deck. The thing that jumps out to me about this is that he has got the Siggy, and he has got the blind eye tag, so Siggy 9 for ForeverYOLO. He's got the Rakaswarm, the Blaze of Glory, the Double Cross. So no Nature's Gift, no Keltalis. They're kind of the other decks we've mainly been seeing.
I thought you meant for a second in his lined pockets. I'm like, Keltalis doesn't fit in lined pockets.
Yeah, ForeverYOLO, for those who don't know, he seems to want to be banning Nilfgaard, and that's why we see no Heatwave in his line pockets list, as he decides that Nilfgaard is something he doesn't want to stress about, and for that reason, he just wants to run more value cards like Siggy, as we see here.
Yep, then we have our Rakaswarm list, so not the Portal variant we saw from Shaggy, so no Portal this time around. It's the Triss Telekinesis version, and Triss Telekinesis wasn't really paying off in a lot of games. You know, she wasn't really pulling the right cards necessarily. Usually, you want that Bone Talisman, and a lot of times she wouldn't find it.
Yeah, I mean, Triss is a bit of a weird one. She can be very weird in certain matchups, especially against Syndicate. Triss is just completely casino with all the special cards that they run. So, I mean, sometimes you got to know when you can rely on Triss. I mean, some matchups she is somewhat reliable, but in other matchups you got to kind of just you got to kind of use her when you see a good moment to use her because you might not get another one.
Yeah, we've seen like a lot of the people that are not banning Syndicate, not taking Triss in their Arachaswarm list, but going for like a Curse of Corruption, or Tailbot's got Geralt of Rivia. So definitely look out for if ForeverYOLO leaves that Syndicate open, will he find the crime cards when he uses Triss, or will he luck out and find the Bone Talisman that he's probably looking for?
Yep, that could definitely make a big impact. And we go moving on to the Skellige here. Once again, we do see the Morkvarg, but we do see Turkey as well as Totem. Actually, how has he managed to fit that all in? What did he end up cutting here? Turkey,
He's got no Jutta, right? No Jutta in his deck, yeah.
Ah, yes, well spotted. No Jutta, and instead he also plays Donor instead of the Herkia. Now that's actually another way we could tell that he was planning on banning Nilfgaard, because obviously the Herkia really valuable against Nilfgaard. But again, if you're going to ban Nilfgaard, then maybe Jutta not as important as you otherwise would have wanted it to be. So we do see that. Turvey also not very good against Nilfgaard because of the Purifiers. But again, if you're banning Nilfgaard, then Turvey can just be another good value play in other matchups.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure how much time we've got left to look at this deck list before we look at Tailbots, but the double cross deck, you're all familiar with it. Going for the Slave Hunters as well instead of the Locks, which is a little bit surprising if you're not banning Syndicate. Normally, you might see people go for the Locks because they're really good in that matchup, but we have seen that people have struggled for proactivity in this Nilfgaard deck if you cut the Slave Hunters.
Yeah, for sure. Those Slave Hunters. Sorry, go on.
No, it's okay. I was going to say something like, I feel like, having the option of Slave Hunters as your proactive play is it's nice to have that available. And, we sometimes see this happen against Nilfgaard and happen against Skellige is because they both struggle a little bit with proactivity. A lot of their cards are reactive. In round 3, sometimes decks such as Line Pockets, for example, can opt, or in round 1, opt to play really uninteractive and just play their special cards and force those decks to waste points.
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah, Tailbot deck. Like the first thing that obviously stands out, Spiro, is this Horson Senior. What is this Horson Senior for in the Line Pockets?
It is an interesting one.
That's his name.
It's I mean there's what the thing that I want to believe it's for is for some nice, you want to maybe Tailbot just wants to reunite his father and son, but they may have something to do with Joachim. It might actually have a more sinister reason behind it. But I think Tailbot actually just has a soft spot and wants to see the father and son reunited in this deck.
Mate, I've got to be honest. It's my biggest, the biggest thing from this lineup that I just love. This Horson Senior being able to deal with those spies. It's something that I've thought of Cursed Knight and NR, but this is just great to see.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea for sure. It is a bit awkward though in some matchups because of the fact that there isn't really too much to actually transform other than Furko. But in the matchup of Nilfgaard, that transformation on Joachim is extremely valuable because Nilfgaard relies quite heavily on replaying Joachim up to 4 times. And if you can actually transform that, it shuts down a lot of value from Nilfgaard. Also, one of the very important aristocrats, so it makes it even harder for him to proc ball in later rounds sometimes. So very, very threatening card in the Nilfgaard matchup for sure.
So for the record, Quill's just pieced out. He's like, right, they don't need me. I've gone back to bed. Then Spessie's having a wee panic, like, oh, was I not meant to be talking here? So now he's run away too. This is what's kind of going on here. So you're left with me and Spirit at this point.
All right. How
do you feel about the Arachaswarm and the kind of tech choices against things like Nilfgaard?
Arachaswarm, I mean, having 3 toll punishers is a little bit excessive. However, against Nilfgaard, I mean, they do play quite tall. As we've seen, Joachim being played 4 times will give you value on Geralt. You will get value on your Heatwave, and you will probably get value on the Yrden. So there is a pretty high chance those cards should find value. They can be a liability in other matchups. If you go up against Skellige, for example, these tech choices are going to be really, really awkward. And we see the bans going on here. Speaking of Skellige, it looks like Tailbot thinking that Skellige is going to be too much for him, as he does end up banning it. And we see ForeverYOLO going to stick with his strategy of banning Nilfgaard once again, as we do see that he prefers not to have to deal with Nilfgaard with his tech choices in the series.
It's an odd ban strategy a little bit. I mean, so Imprisonment's really frustrating in certain matchups, with cards like Line Pockets. When you have your engines and stuff, the locks can be really annoying. And also in Skellige, there's some things that can just get locked and it denies you some value. But on the flip side, that imprisonment list is going to do worse. Like that's probably Tailbot's worst list against his Nilfgaard. And if Tailbot is, soft targeting Nilfgaard in the way that we kind of have seen, then actually playing imprisonment into double cross is more favored towards ForeverYOLO. So it's an interesting choice by him to say, I'm going to ban this because of its other matchups, and thinks he can maybe find his win with Nilfgaard against the rest of the decks.
I don't know if my nerve can take watching the Nilfgaard mirror. Every time I see these mirrors, I'm just like, I'm just sitting with my fingers and toes crossed and just holding my breath for these matchups. As Nilfgaard mirrors, definitely one of the more unusual ones. I wonder if any series do you think today are going to get this? I mean, I guess in this series, one Nilfgaard was banned, so we won't actually see a mirror happening in this series. But I wonder if today any series are going to be decided in Nilfgaard mirrors. What do you think about that one, Jaggers? Think we're going to see Nilfgaard mirrors today or not?
So yes. And I'm thinking, I don't know, the Alchemist shenanigans weren't really too bad yesterday. But yesterday I was like, well, if the Alchemist shenanigans aren't really too bad, then what'll happen is it'll decide the final. So that is where we'll see a Nilfgaard mirror. We'll see some Alchemist nonsense. They'll trade cards a wee bit, and somebody will win. Well, Paya doesn't have Nilfgaard, so we can't see Nilfgaard in the final, actually. And I predicted Paya to win.
I think Fireball was the only player that didn't bring Nilfgaard in today's tournament, if I'm not mistaken. Did Gravish bring Nilfgaard? No, Gravish did bring Nilfgaard. So Fireball, I think, only one, right?
Yeah, I believe so. So actually, that's a complete nonsense because Fireball's going to get to the final. So then we can't have a Nilfgaard mirror there. We can have Alchemist shenanigans, though. Oh, no, sorry, Fireball. I've just cursed you. I apologize.
Oh, no, not the caster's curse. Well, Fireball's doomed. You heard it here first. But yeah, we're going to get these matchups started very soon, as it is going to be ForeverYOLO, the underdog who has something to prove today, versus the Gwent veteran Tailbot, one of the longest standing pro players in the Gwent scene, been around since the dawn of time, it seems, throughout open beta, throughout homecoming, as he will once again try claim another victory in this Gwent Open number 1 of Season 3.
And I think what's going to be spicy to see today, shall we say, as we get into the first game of the series, is let's see how ForeverYOLO handles this series. Because last series, we saw him really start to kind of tilt in Game 1 and Game 2. He kind of recovered in the draw and evolved into his final form that was YOLO Jam. So we'll see if we get some jam this time around, or whether Tobliat is there to cancel all of the jams.
Yeah, I'm curious if we're going to get some ForeverYOLO jams for sure. It's going to be quite exciting to see if he harnesses the power of the jams to win this series. Going to need all the jams he can get, though, if he wants to take down none other than Tailbot as the first game here. Unfortunately, not a great matchup for ForeverYOLO. It is going to be a Ruckus Swarm versus Skellige, and we see the Mulligan coming out on the Jurden right away. Not a good card in this matchup, unfortunately. One of the worst matchups for Jurden to find value in is against Skellige, as they pretty much don't boost anything at all.
Yeah, we can already see ForeverYOLO chanting away. Oh, so chanting is like Scottish for singing. So if we say someone's chanting, they're singing. I'm pretty sure he's singing. Or, maybe he's reciting poetry. We can't really hear at this point, but I'm pretty sure he's already beginning the ForeverYOLO jam. This matchup a bit awkward, though. Your Erden doesn't really do anything because, Skellige doesn't boost. Then they've got lots of nice options for squashing bugs, things like the Hunters, the Ancrate Raiders, for example. Those are really good for... Sorry, Ancrate Marauders are really good for just pinging off small units because of the 1 damage pings. Also, the Light Longship can be... Or so the Ancrate Longship can be a little bit annoying, pinging damage on all of your units and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the nice thing about the on-crate longships, though, for ForeverYOLO in this matchup is due to the fact that many of his units are special cards, he can opt to maybe ignore this on-crate longship. He doesn't really have to play that many units. So for the time being, this on-crate longship isn't all that threatening. However, what is threatening, though, is going up against Skellige with so many forms of random damage, so many forms of efficient removal. And if they're able to control the board state, it can be very difficult to actually get any kind of value from your things like Talisman and maybe Yennefer or Chimera for that matter. So it's going to be interesting to see how ForeverYOLO approaches this matchup, because it is not an easy one for sure against Skellige.
And you've only got that one lock, right? The Doragare. So you need to pick your target for that. And typically you'll see that used on things like a Hercule or something that damages every turn that you can't maybe quite reach into to kill. Actually, not Hercule, so you can't lock her. I think like a Harold.
She has a veil.
As well. But you want to... So not those guys, but things like Hunters. That's what I'm going to go for.
Yeah, Hunters is a great
lock. You
lock.
want to use that lock and find your target, and then you've got to use your damage on things like Hercule and Harold because of their veil tag.
For For sure, and definitely need to be wary of those hunters. Those can be another annoying engine that can just start chipping away at your boards piece by piece. Now we see a second raiding fleet coming out here, or second boat rather, with that. So 2 on-crate longships on the board. Again, not all that threatening just yet, but there are still 2 or 3 units that ForeverYOLO may want to play and invest into this round, which could end up being a little bit awkward against these on-crate longships. However, for now, though, ForeverYOLO just going to play the Crimson Curse, get that bleed going, and potentially try sink some ships with those bleeds. A bit of a strange one, though, sinking ships with bleeds, but I won't question the physics here.
Take a little bit of time though, with the bleeds, because of the damage that happens. That armor will soak up a little bit of the damage. The other thing that Tailbot can do here is pop some Veil units in that front row in order to try and RNG the bleeds. If the Veil units get hit by the bleeding, it doesn't trigger on them, obviously, so they don't get bled. And when you have things like Veterans and Herkia available to you, you can kind of use that to attack a little bit into this first round.
Yeah, we actually saw a lot of strategies yesterday. People using that Veil very well against the Crimson Curse can be quite annoying, as you mentioned that every time the round bleeds do end up taking place, if it does end up going on a Veil unit, it is just wasted damage that the Araka Swarm player might end up sinking into one of those. So could be a good strategy for Tailbot, although it seems like Tailbot for now rather want to set up more engines, as ForeverYOLO just cleans it right up with a natural selection right away.
Also, how talented is Tailbot at doing his hair? Like, I feel like the man is a wizard when it comes to hairstyling. I can't do my hair anywhere near as good as Tailbot's. Whatever his name is.
Tailbot. See, Jagras, I just want to point out, apparently I was disqualified for saying Tailbot, and here you are.
I corrected myself. I don't make the rules. I mean, okay, I did make that rule, but still. So Tailbot with the great sword there on the back row suggests that he's ready to start dealing some damage, but that turns out to be the lock target. And I really like this from ForeverYOLO. Locking the great sword there, you're denying 6 points of healing in that lock. You're unlikely to maybe see a better target, especially with the Veil units being unable to be locked.
Yeah, that lock coming down there for quite good value, trading up by 2 against the Greatsword. These ships, though, starting to get withered away from this bleed, almost sinking here. ForeverYOLO having a pretty strong board state. Tailbot says he's had enough. He's going to pass here. Doesn't want to go up against this Crimson Curse any longer, as ForeverYOLO now has the driver's seat. He could bleed in round 2, but it is so difficult sometimes to bleed against Skellige because the amount of reach they can threaten with the Iced is pretty phenomenal. Even if you're up by 30 points, sometimes you might think you have a good pass, but then suddenly they just slam down the ice and say, nope, I can do this in one very easily, just like that.
Find the right moment to pass, I think, when you bleed Skellige, to try and put them into a position where they maybe have to spend their iced and leader to catch up, or go 2 cards down, put them into that position. And we've seen that sort of fork in the road where you have to make a choice previously in matches against Skellige. Where players have bled Skellige to try and remove iced from round 3, and I feel like it can kind of go a couple of ways. Like sometimes you'll get the iced out, but you still then have to kind of climb the hill that is Skellige in a short round, because Skellige does have good short round options with things like Herald, the cripple into resurrections, for example.
And we see ForeverYOLO here going to invest 1 leader charge, opening up with that spontaneous evolution. Now, leader charge in this matchup are something you do have to be careful about, because you really want to keep as much swarm as you can for round 3 for that Yennefer. And it is difficult to get things to actually stick on the board. But ForeverYOLO going to invest in this round, and Tailbot can start getting a sense of what ForeverYOLO's intentions are. Looking at Tailbot's hand, though, he does have that Vabion for a Blood Eagle, which could grab either iced if he wants to keep it for reach, or he could use it for maybe something like the Marauder if he wants to try and deal with these swarm units easily. Although we're going to, for now, just see down because of War of Clans removing 2 bodies in one go with that Hunter, and ForeverYOLO doesn't really have any good answer for this Hunter right now. No locks and no natural selection.
I mean, he could go looking for options with Triss. It's a risk, but that's something that you could do. You've also got the Neuromancy, but I agree, like the Hunter's kind of annoying, but he can chill for a turn, right? Because of that timer, we aren't actually playing Hunter for Beast synergy. Spoiler alert. Like, the Hunter does not exist for his synergy with Beast. He just exists as he has that 1 point of ping, and you can use that to add tier 2 and 3 points of ping elsewhere on the board to deal with your opponent. Tailbot, though, slowly but surely chipping away these drones. I think that's, 3 bugs he's squashed so far, so I feel like he's doing better than Gwent. Sorry, that was totally BM. But yeah, squashing lots of bugs. But ForeverYOLO managing to now play that Arrakis Behemoth, boost up that completely stacked front row, and this makes those a little bit harder to remove.
Yeah, the quicker you're able to boost up your units in this matchup, the more beneficial. And that's one of the things that makes going like you often see players going full leader ability and Yennefer turn 1 against Skellige in round 3s to try and get those drones out of removal range, because the faster they grow, the more safe they are. As now Herkia only going to be doing 1 damage a turn, which won't be able to kill anything by itself just yet, which is why you want to just make sure these drones are just out of that 1 range as quickly as possible. And this Arrakis Behemoth doing an excellent job at that. As ForeverYOLO now has the adrenaline active, he can start playing his chimeras for a whole lot of points if he wants to keep this pressure going.
Yep, and Tailbot, he's going to have to start doing something to play some tempo. I mean, he's establishing these small amounts of damage, which will help him to kill some of these bugs. Should he manage to do it before they get too boosted? You know, you've got the 2 points there, you've got the random pings from Herkia, and that might be useful. But he also does have Morkvarg onto a 6-point Arrakis Behemoth, right? So he's got decent value in his Morkvarg on the current state. He's always got access to, actually no, does he have? No, yeah, he does. He's got access to Blood Eagle from Vabion, so he can get access to Ice should he need it.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. However, ForeverYOLO investing leader charges here, 2 leader charges in fact, and now playing the Triss. Unfortunately, missing out on that talisman. And as we spoke about this before, Triss is just not really all that consistent, unfortunately. Sometimes she can end up missing what you want. I mean, the spontaneous evolution is still nice. It's not the end, it's not a complete train smash. But I think ForeverYOLO, especially investing 2 leader charges there, was definitely looking to find that talisman, which he unfortunately missed out on.
Yeah, hoping to really start getting the swarm on. It's not the worst case scenario because he also had the natural selection. So if he'd gone down that route, he could have at least killed the hunter and denied an engine. So, you know, there's always a silver lining with these cards. But it is often the case that we see people missing the natural selection. And it's not really what they want, right? It's not what you're hoping for in this matchup. One thing I will note is I believe that Tailbot is not running Gutting Slash. So ForeverYOLO's odds were a little bit better than some matchups. And what that means is he really did low roll there.
Yep, that is for sure. As we see Vabion coming out here on to a Blood Eagle, and that will end up pulling what exactly? That means if Tailbot, now, if he uses this now, he won't have access to Ice any longer, and that is a bit of a dangerous position. Okay, so he goes for the Ice now, and threatening card advantage, going for a very early Ice, in fact. As a Bloodthirst 2 on the board, and it's going to make sure he uses this now, it seems, before he loses out on that Bloodthirst. Finds the Berserker with that, and then ends up playing the Utah. So Tailbot now threatening card advantage, going a card up potentially. And what is exactly ForeverYOLO going to do? He could try play Yennefer, but on this board state, Yennefer actually isn't looking all that great. There's a lot of units on Tailbot's side of the board too.
I mean, Tailbot just slammed 4 units on the board, right? Vabion, Ice, Berserker, and Utah. So Tailbot identifying that this is the point where YOLO is wanting to play cards like Yennefer. This is where, you know, ForeverYOLO is going to start stretching out that gap. And if you're going to have to commit Ice anyway, you may as well do it in such a way that slams 4 units on the board and worsens ForeverYOLO's Yennefer by, 6 points?
Yeah, the more units that Tailbot can get on the board and the more that he can remove from ForeverYOLO's side definitely improves this, or makes the Yennefer worse every time. So if Tailbot, for example, plays the Morkvarg here, removes a body, he suddenly adds 1 body to his side of the board and removes 1 from ForeverYOLO's side of the board, which makes that Yennefer just that much worse. As we see, down will come the Chimera. That is going to just narrowly get ForeverYOLO ahead now, but Tailbot can very easily stay ahead with a number of things in his hand.
Yeah, bear in mind that target also for the Morkvarg getting bigger, up to a 7 now. So Morkvarg provides a heck of a lot of reach. You've still got your Veteran, which is just a comfortable 6-point play. You're quite happy, I think, in this matchup to play the Jenga, you know, as a 7-point play as well. So he's got lots of decent amounts of power that he can just kind of drop down on the board. The gap isn't that big that he has to play fast right now. And remember, he's still got this Brockvar Hunter pinging away. The Herkia now disabled, so that not a threat for ForeverYOLO anymore. But here comes Jenga. Just the lock is incidental. You're just kind of closing the gap. And the Berserker just transforming there on top of everything to make that gap even bigger.
ForeverYOLO does have a nice heat wave here. The best heat wave he'll actually get in this matchup. But again, I'm not so sure if ForeverYOLO is going to get his card back. That Morkvarg still in hand for Tailbot. That's going to play for so many points onto that 7-point drone. this is going to be quite difficult. And with leader ability gone, ForeverYOLO really doesn't have much left to swarm the board with in round 3 for that Yennefer. So I don't know. I'm not sure what ForeverYOLO's options are right now. He does have a decent value on the Talisman. He still has good value on the Heatwave. Maybe he can try put Tailbot under some pressure, but looking at Tailbot's hand, I don't think Tailbot's going to feel any kind of pressure with what he has available to him.
Yeah, ForeverYOLO is just completely overcommitted to this round. Leader completely expended at this point. The Bow Talisman, I feel like he may as well play it now because you can't really swarm in the next round. And I'm not really sure what ForeverYOLO does here. Maybe you just keep playing cards and hope that your opponent plays all their good stuff and top decks badly. I don't know. I don't know what ForeverYOLO can really do here, because we talked about saving some swarm in the first round. We talked about saving some bugs because you're going into a new round. You need some new bugs to reapply to the board and put more bugs out into Gwent. But unfortunately for ForeverYOLO, he maybe jammed his cards a little bit too soon, doing the YOLO jam. And as a result of that, it's not looking so good for him in this first round.
The problem for ForeverYOLO is if he is unable to get the Herald the Cripple out in this round. Oh, speaking of the devil, there it comes. Herald the Cripple is going to come out. Looks like Tailbot is going to respect ForeverYOLO a little bit, getting that Greatsword down in preparation for perhaps a Morkvarg to boost it up. And now ForeverYOLO really going to have to, I think, accept that, say, you know what, I'm going to go a card down, but at the very least, I did get out the Iced and the Herald the Cripple. Maybe I can win round 3. It's going to be a very tough order to win round 3, a card down, but I'm not sure what ForeverYOLO's options are. I mean, he could play the Heater on the Yuta, but again, Tailbot could just play a Morkvarg pretty happily to get ahead after that.
Yeah, he's just setting up the Morkvarg there with the extra points of damage, and ForeverYOLO knows it. He does have access to a Bone Talisman off of his Neuromancy in order to boost his relatively swarmed board, but in doing that, you're just, you're not going to get far enough ahead that Morkvarg wouldn't spell disaster. Maybe he feels that Tailbot is bluffing, that he's playing this greatsword but doesn't actually have access to the targets that he wants. So we see Whispers into Parasite onto the greatsword, so just deny that. But it doesn't put you far enough ahead, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of putting Tailbot through his paces and asking him what more does he want to spend. I think at this point, ForeverYOLO's just trying to make some good trades while he can. Has a 12-point Heatwave still in the Yuta, which is a lot of points, but again, that Morkvarg will be more than enough for Tail to take the round. As ForeverYOLO going to have to figure out what he has left to win round 3. Looking at his deck, he does still have Yennefer, but not much swarm left. Jurgen, that is going to be a very bad card in this matchup. So kind of just 11 dead provisions in deck. Only thing that really gives ForeverYOLO the points is the Yennefer, and he's going to have to figure out a way to swarm the board, as we see now. Tailbot deciding what exactly he wants to spend here. Morkvarg, I'm not sure if Morkvarg is going to get much more value than this. Might just see a Morkvarg come down. I mean, I guess the Invader gets him hit for now, so maybe just Tailbot going to first just play the Invader, and then ForeverYOLO. I mean, you're never getting better heat with value than this, so I expect to see ForeverYOLO probably just play it out here.
The thing is with Tailbot, if he plays the Morkvarg, it might encourage ForeverYOLO to hold his last card, right? So Tailbot, if he keeps the Morkvarg in his back pocket, then it means that if ForeverYOLO kind of played the Heatwave like now, Tailbot can still close the gap in one card, which he's managed to do here. Whereas if he'd played it in that previous round, then potentially ForeverYOLO could have passed, extended the final round, and maybe given him more chance to swarm the board.
Yeah, Tailbot possibly just wanting to try to get more commitment out of ForeverYOLO. However, going to go into a short round 3 now, and ForeverYOLO, what exactly does he have left? He doesn't even have any Neuromancy here, so he's really going to have to find some good top decks, as Tailbot does have that Blood Eagle, and ForeverYOLO will not find the Yennefer. Does have two. I mean, that gives him potentially 10 bodies on the board, but that looks like it's not going to be good enough. ForeverYOLO going to take the forfeit there, and going to go into game number 2. A Tailbot leading the series now 1-0. Now, Jaggers, I can't remember the final series, but did the person that lost game 1 win the series? I can't remember who won game 1 in the final series yesterday between Payable and Gravesh.
Payable won the first game, I think.
Okay, so Payable already broke the pattern. Never mind.
But this is ForeverYOLO following the Spiro strategy guide, right? He went online. He bought the official Gwent strategy guide written by Mr. S. or Stephanos, or whatever your surname is. And then he was reading it. It's like, right, lose series game 1, lose game 2.
Then choose coin
now
flip.
you can choose coin flip. And then reverse sweep, and then there's some question marks, and then profit is this. I've read the Spiro strategy guide to Gwent, so I know how this goes. But he's invested in that, hearing that perhaps it would help him to victory. And I don't know. I feel like that book is a little bit outdated at this point.
Nah, that book is a bestseller. That is a Bible. That is a Gwent Bible, Jaggers. I don't know what you're talking about. Go 2 cards down. Not 2 cards. Well, that's also another.
That's in there as well. Apparently,
I mean, he did the first series, to be fair. So first series worked for him. Go 2 cards down. Go 2-0 as well in the series, and then get your jams on, mount the reverse sweep, and shock the world. And let's see if he's gonna be able to do it again here today, as he's gonna have to start getting those jams ready. We did see him start delving a little bit into jams, but he's gonna have to start pumping up the volume if he wants to.
Yeah,
if he wants to have a hope of beating.
Jam, pop it.
Oh,
do you know that
God.
song?
I hesitate to say yes, but yes.
Is it on the Spiro Twitch playlist along with The Sun is Shining?
No, those are both DMCA, so unfortunately, no.
Sad times. Sad times.
Don't you mean Sag times?
Sag times, yeah. Imagine DMCAing on Twitch. Can't be me. So we're getting set up here for the second game of the set. Currently, Tailbot is 1-0 up against ForeverYOLO. Tailbot managing to win with his Skellige list, sometimes a bit of a tricky one to find win with, versus the Araka Swarm list of ForeverYOLO. But now, Tailbot with his Araka Swarm and ForeverYOLO pumping up the jam on Nilfgaard Double Cross.
Well, we can see, if you look at ForeverYOLO, he's starting to jam. He's starting to get into the zone. You can see it there. I can see some singing going on as we're going to see Nilfgaard versus Araka Swarm. This is not a great matchup once again for ForeverYOLO. Tailbot really queuing exactly what he wants to queue into with this Geralt and Heatwave as well as the Jurden. It is going to be a little bit difficult for ForeverYOLO to get as much value as he wants from those Joachims, as they are likely going to get answered by these Tall Punishers.
Yeah, and it seems that ForeverYOLO has got the memo to turn up the jam. Is this something he read in the Spiro strategy guide to Gwent, that you need to jam cards and jam tunes?
Yes, it's also in the guide. That's chapter 3, Jaggers.
So on Monday we'll see you jamming like this, getting some groove on.
Possibly, as we do see now, Tailbot will have to lead things off. He will be going first in this matchup. Looking at Tailbot's hand. Not a whole lot of great practice plays besides maybe the Whisper's Tribute, and possibly going to use it to swarm the board, or maybe just Maxi. Looks like it's just going to be the Maxi here, and Tailbot getting a look at the order of his deck, deciding whether he wants to keep the order or shuffle it. Maxi giving you the ability rather to get a lot of information about your deck, and you can get the option also to choose if you want to shuffle afterwards or not.
So, what do you think ForeverYOLO's listening to? You got to pick one song. And one
man, I think he shared it yesterday. I forgot what it was. He actually shared a playlist.
If you could pick, like hypothetically, what's he jamming to right now?
It's obviously The Sun is Shining. What are you talking about?
You make a good point. But actually, I have it on good authority. He is jamming to moves like Jagger. And on that note, let's continue with the Gwent.
So down comes Nausicaa Sergeant. Tailbot does not actually have a whole lot of removal. He does have a lock. This does seem like a decent Dora Garay. Instead, going to invest the Parasite, it seems, and will end up getting a drone. I guess Tailbot doing this because he wants to perhaps get a drone on the board to get maybe value from the Spontaneous Evolution, which he might be able to tribute with Whisper's Tribute, or get 2-try rather with Whisper's Tribute if he wants to. Down comes another Nausicaa Sergeant though, so Tailbot going to end up first locking it with the Dora Garay this time around.
Just swiftly dealing with Nausicaa Sergeants and denying power, because those Nausicaa Sergeants, they can start to creep up in power, especially when you have units that play other units, and units that trigger multiple deploys. Things like your Vigo, for example, that's going to spawn a unit, which you then play, so it can get a couple points on the Nausicaa Sergeant. And they do start to see some really decent value.
Yeah, for sure. These Nausicaa Sergeants, very threatening engines as Nilfgaard. They kind of look, they kind of don't really look all that intimidating when they start off, but they can ramp up quickly. When you have things like Joachim that can potentially proc 2 deploys, things like Vigo that can proc 2 deploys, Brothens and whatnot, they can really start to ramp up. And here we see Fangs the Empire coming down, threatening a poison. In this matchup, you just take poison value wherever you get it, because you really don't expect to see too much value from these poisons. Against the likes of Araka Swarm.
Yeah, 6 is about as good as your poison is going to get, and when you're picking amongst the 6s, you got to opt to squash your bugs, We do not want bugs in Gwent, so squash them when you can. And it makes sense just to pick that, as it is one of the units that synergizes with things like Chimera. And sometimes you can use the Chimera Consume to deny a poison, but to do that, you do need more bugs on the row that are going to get boosted up. So at the moment, that is not an option for Tailbot.
And Tailbot now gonna set down that Andrega egg, perhaps threatening a consumption with maybe even purify value. As ForeverYOLO gonna take this poison right away, denying that Andrega warrior to eat the poison, as Tailbot now doesn't really have a way to actually consume that unless he wants to spend a Neuromancy in round number 1. Now, spending a Neuromancy in round 1 is somewhat awkward, because if you do spend an A, ForeverYOLO could in theory shuffle it back and steal it with the likes of Cantarella. And also, of course, you can use it twice. I mean, Echo cards, you can't use it 3 times. Twice is the limit, and sometimes you really want to keep that consistency for round 2 and 3.
He may just be looking for a pass in this round. It's not really the greatest hand ever. He doesn't really have the tools that he needs, and like you said, if he wants to consume the Andrega eggs, yeah, then he's going to have to go looking with a Neuromancy, but he's just spent Crimson Curse, so that suggests that he's going to maybe go for the Neuromancy Consume, or look to swarm in some different ways in order to try and contest this first round.
Yeah, the risk of a Ruckus Swarm not winning round 1 is if you don't have final say, that coup de grace onto a Yrden is extremely threatening. You really want to make sure you have last say with this matchup. Especially as the Ruckus Swarm player, because coup de grace on Yrden is just so threatening, and you just can't really afford that, as we now see Tailbot, as you mentioned, playing the Crimson Curse. They're starting to get some points and some bodies on the board, but really, Tailbot doesn't have much way to swarm the board. He's going to use the Chimera just to consume that egg and get some more bodies going, as he does start leading with 13 points and some bleeds on the board. It's going to be a bit difficult here for ForeverYOLO to start keeping up in this round 1.
It's not really the optimal way you want to use your Chimera, but it does give him a consume, right? So he is able to start to swarm a little bit more and also start to push into this round. And one of the things that's kind of annoying for ForeverYOLO is that he helps the swarm. Because he has these spy units, he's adding to Tailbot's unit advantage. And that is a little bit frustrating in one of these rounds, because you're just adding additional points to things like the Triss into Bone Talisman, like the Bone Talisman itself, and like the Yennefer.
Yeah, for sure. As we now see the lead here still within reach for ForeverYOLO. I think that's what ForeverYOLO is kind of just doing right now, is just playing for reach, asking Tailbot, what else do you want to spend? I'm not laying it out that easily. I'm just going to kind of sit here, play some cards, and if you ever pass, I can take one with Brothens or something. So let's see exactly what Tailbot is willing to spend in this round 1, as he is only up by 9 points. Does still have some bleeds on the board, so Tailbot now doing some math, saying, what exactly is your reach? How are you doing these points if I end up passing here? And Tailbot will be deciding soon if he wants to invest further in this round, or if he wants to try to take a cheeky pass here and put ForeverYOLO on the spot. Now, ForeverYOLO, how exactly is he going to do these points? That is not easy to do, and I'm not entirely sure Brothens can actually do it.
You'd have to do the maths. I don't do maths as a caster. It doesn't end well. Occasionally I try and do maths, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And overall, it's just a bit of a risk. It might come down to where that damage ping hits from the Crimson Curse, right? You've got 1 bleeding on a 1 strength unit, so if the 2 damage goes on there, then that is preferable.
It looks like ForeverYOLO, though, spending leader abilities, he does not have the reach, it seems, at least not with leaders. So that's going to be a big spend for ForeverYOLO. Using the lead in round 1, gets the Neuromancy for some carryover value. But again, spending a leader ability in round 1 is big, because that means that Tailbot does not have to play around this leader ability anymore, which is a very annoying leader ability to actually play around in this matchup, as we now see ForeverYOLO going to take a Dutch Informant here, as it's not really a good card later on. So that is a big spend using leader ability in this round number 1.
Yeah, and then you consume the... Oh, that was a... I don't agree with that consume. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, but he should have consumed the Cupbearer, because the 1 strength unit was going to bleed to death.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter, I guess. But the question is, though, how much is this loss of leader ability going to impact this game for round 3?
I don't know. I mean, he got a Neuromancy out of it, right? So maybe not. That's the thing. Like, yes, he lost the leader ability, but he's gained a Neuromancy, and he's going to draw straight back into that. So you're kind of using your leader ability twice almost in the way that you gain that.
In a way, but again, leaderability allowing you to, if your opponent keeps something like Yennefer in hand or things like Jordan in hand, you can actually steal it with your leaderability. And now that that threat is gone, Tailbot doesn't have to play around this leaderability anymore. He can kind of keep whatever he wants in hand for this round 3 as leaderability no longer threatens. So ForeverYOLO does have final say, does have round control, could perhaps bleed if he wants to, or he could just take a long round 3 and try perhaps maybe clog up Tailbot's side of the board and make it very awkward for him to play his cards. So let's see exactly what ForeverYOLO decides to do. He's in the driver's seat. What is he going to do with this round control?
So in ForeverYOLO's case, like ForeverYOLO has to also be a little bit careful about his own side getting clogged. That does sometimes happen with Nilfgaard when you have a long round. Is I guess against monsters not so much, but against Nilfgaard, especially in the mirror, like you can sort of end up getting clogged yourself. And if you have a long round and you want to clog your opponent, then that's maybe easier than in a short round, so you might take the pass here. The thing is, Tobliat is targeting this matchup. So you have to kind of decide how much of his targeting you're scared of. Because if he's going to play a great big Geralt Erden in the final round, that's going to be quite nasty. Whereas if you shorten the round, those sorts of cards become less impactful. But ForeverYOLO opting not to go for the bleed. And bleeding is risky. It takes a certain level of talent. So you got to kind of play it right. And one of the ways to play it right is by not playing it at all.
That is definitely one way to do it. If you just take the pass, nothing can go wrong, right? Just take a long round 3 and everything will be fine, at least in theory, as ForeverYOLO does say he prefers the longer round here. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. Nilfgaard can do some shenanigans with long rounds. They can definitely, manipulate not just the deck, but the board state as well, clogging up the board, a strategy which we see time and time again from Nilfgaard. With all those disloyal units, you have a very limited amount of space in Gwent, only 9 cards you can play on each row. And Nilfgaard can kind of use those spaces for themselves, and playing disloyal units here can be very, very awkward, especially against a deck like this that ends up swarming the board and really needs every space that it has.
With that said, if you expect them to kind of swarm your board for you, you can choose not to play some of your swarm cards. Like you could choose, for example, to mulligan something like a Spontaneous Evolution or avoid them. And instead of playing your swarm cards, only play things that generate bodies. Like you're not going to get quite as much value from cards like your Chimera, for example. However, it does mean that you maybe don't get into that situation where you can't afford to play.
Yeah, that is also quite true. Now, this Jordan in hand for Tailbot, this is going to be awkward because, again, ForeverYOLO has final say, which means ForeverYOLO can coup de grace that Jordan if Tailbot ends up playing it, which he's going to have to do at some point or other, unless he wants to discard it. But then again, of course, you can just shuffle it back with the location. So I don't know. This Jordan could end up being a big detriment for Tailbot here. Without the final size, we see Spontaneous Evolution will lead things off with a leader charge there. Tailbot has to be very careful not to overswarm. He needs some spaces for some of his final plays that he might make.
Yeah, on the plus side, he doesn't have to worry about ForeverYOLO leadering his Erden and double Erdening him. So, every cloud has a silver lining, I suppose. But Tobliat's starting to get some Arrakis on the board and begin that swarm. One thing you can do, I suppose, with the Erden is if you play it early and then consume it, your opponent can't coup it.
Yeah, I mean, if you do that, though, I mean, they can always, if you do try eat the urine, again, it goes to the graveyard, which means you can just shuffle it back with the location and Canzarella into it. So it's going to be a bit awkward. One thing that Tailbot could potentially try to do is overswarm himself quickly and lock out all the spying units from ForeverYOLO. If he can fill up his rows and have no spaces left, then ForeverYOLO can't really play things like Canzarella and whatnot, which could actually be very awkward. However, this Slave Hunter, if this just sits here and does not get answered, it can be used to open up space for ForeverYOLO potentially. So Tailbot has to keep that in mind as well.
But Tailbot opting to get that first row swarm on the go. Player cameras, we're looking at a nice handprint there on an Left 4 Dead sticker. Player cameras are gone. We've got some interesting issues going on here. And double Slave Hunter means that ForeverYOLO can kind of choose what he wants to pick away. Like if he's wanting to save the removal, he can do that, but he has to be a little bit cautious, right? Because if he doesn't use the 2-point damage to kill a bug now, then he may not be able to fix the bug. He might have spaghetti code going on, and then the bug is just going to be there forever.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this is, we spoke about the locks versus the slave hunters. This is a matchup where you really like these slave hunters, being able to just sit on the board and kind of choose when you want to open up space for a spying unit, or maybe you want space for your usurper. They can be so valuable here. The locks wouldn't really do much, but these slave hunters actually incredibly valuable in this situation. As ForeverYOLO now will have one of them move, not really going to do a whole lot with the movement there, but question is, when are we going to see the usurper come down? As right now the melee row is blocked, however ForeverYOLO can open up space. Seems like we're going to get Masquerade Ball going for now, as he maybe wants to maximize the usurper value on that Thirsty Dame and maybe the agent tags.
And it is worth noting Heatwave is available to Tolblia. And seeing as we're going in Neuromancy, I do believe, there's the Heatwave on the Masquerade Ball. It turns out that there was a Heatwave and there were no drinks at the ball, so everyone went home to watch this broadcast where there's plenty of drinks, shall we say. I think it's fine. Like, you maybe wanted to save it for something toll off of Joachim, but then on the flip side, you're allowing your opponent to play through the chapters. They're going to get a couple poisons. They're going to get more bodies on the board. And you don't really want your opponent to play bodies if you intend to play Yennefer. And
there comes the usurper. Seems like ForeverYOLO did end up opening up a spot with that slave hunter as predicted to get that usurper coming down for full value. And now Tailbot really looking at this Jurden and got to think what exactly he wants to do with it. It is going to be dangerous to play it early. The Geralt will likely find good value, but it's another card that could be coup de grace from ForeverYOLO. Then again, if Tailbot is able to play low enough to the ground, the Geralt won't actually be too great. That's one of the big strengths about Rakaswarm. It's one of those decks that don't play tall at all, which means decks that play tall punishers don't get much value against the likes of this Swarm deck.
It's an interesting choice about clicking the Usurper there, considering Parasite was already played, and for the time being, the operatives were blocking Tailbot's board. They also could have still been boosted by Tailbot if he plays cards like the Bone Talisman and the Yennefer. So how do you feel about that click?
I mean, if you don't consume them, then the thing is Chimera could end up... if you don't click them, then Chimera could come down and consume the operative, which does hurt your Usurper. So I think ForeverYOLO just doing that because of the threat of the Chimera, which we do see Tailbot did have in hand. So ForeverYOLO opting to pull back the operatives to play on those Chimeras.
And if you expect your bugs to be ardent anyway, then I suppose consuming the operative a better choice than consuming a bug and boosting more bugs. Like, yes, it's fewer points, but you're also denying points from your opponent, which you have to consider. So kind of one of those situations. But now Roderick, he's here at the party. He's got his friend Menno, and Menno is probably going to play an experimental remedy, I would imagine, as Tourney Joust. I mean, you can play it for removal, but you don't really want to remove units on the side of your board, and you want to put more units on ForeverYOLO side of the board. So looking into the graveyard and deciding what it is he wants.
Seems like it is indeed going to be a Duchess Informant that will be grabbing, I guess, the Bruiser. Bruiser will just be a 5-point card, but does trigger some assimilate value, which is quite nice, as we do see now ForeverYOLO tying up the scoreline as Tailbot. Again, what exactly is he going to do with this Jurden? It is so bad to play this Jurden if ForeverYOLO just sitting with that coup de grace in hand, ready for it.
But he can't discard it, right? Because if he discards it last play, then ForeverYOLO can just hold Cantrella for last play and play it that way.
Yep, that is also the problem. I mean, he could just pass, of course, just not even play, not discard and not play, just completely just pass.
Yeah, I guess that's what you'd have to do if you didn't want to trigger it. You have to decide, I guess, is me urdening my opponent worth more points than them urdening me, kind of thing. And what's the harm there compared to if your opponent, say, coup de grace a Joachim, because that's the alternative, right?
Look at how much value this Jurden is already threatening on the melee row. So many boosts have been seen. We got each of these drones pretty much being boosted by 3 points apiece, and then we got the Chimera also boosted by 6. That Jurden pretty much with 20 points at least on the melee row, and there's still the Talisman to be seen. So this Jurden is going to potentially cost Tailbot this game, as it will be good for Tailbot to play it on ForeverYOLO, but it's going to be even better for ForeverYOLO to play it against Tailbot, and that's one of the big downsides about Jurden. One of the reasons why you see a lot of players opting to play Curse of Corruption, because against Nilfgaard, this Jurden can actually be a liability at times.
And it's worth noting that Tailbot not opting to play Yennefer in this round. I feel like Nilfgaard does kind of swarm the board somewhat, so you don't get as much value out of Yennefer. It maybe is that he missed it, but no Yennefer to be had. I'm just saying Yennefer to annoy people. I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh boy, trying to play fire. The fire of Twitch chat, as we see ForeverYOLO now going to end up swarming Tailbot's side of the board even further. And I mean, Tailbot will have good Jurden value of his own, but I mean, nothing in comparison to how much value ForeverYOLO is going to get from his Jurden with the coup de grace. So for now, ForeverYOLO up now by 9 points, and Tailbot does have good value with these two Geralts. Vanilla Geralt and Yurden will play for a lot. Talisman will also play for a lot, but coup de grace so threatening without final save for Tailbot.
Yeah, and it's coup de grace and it's double Joachim as well as the other option. So it's like you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Maybe if Tailbot can jam the board, such that the coup de grace there's no room for I guess that's the strategy maybe you have to go for, is try and fill the board such that there's no room for the Joachims. But is there even enough space for that on this board?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Down will come this Geralt. Big value on the Geralt there. 15-point Geralt, I believe, and killing off an Ascimate Engine. But again, I think without final say, I don't think Tailbot has so much of a chance, as ForeverYOLO now will end up having the coup de grace still available to him on that Yurden. Going to play the location here. What exactly he's going to grab could end up grabbing a Mentor. Then again, Mentor does end up playing a little bit harder into a Yurden. Grabs it anyway, and that will end up boosting itself by 10, I believe. Well, boost itself by 9, putting itself up to 10 with that Yennefer still in deck for Tailbot.
I mean, you're almost kind of baiting Tailbot right now. Like ForeverYOLO is just like, come on, Erden me daddy, Geralt me daddy, get me. Because he has the cards in pocket to just play it against Tailbot. So I don't really feel like there's a situation where Tailbot can afford to do that. I mean, he's got two leader charges remaining, so he's got that as an option. He's got the order on the Dulderlock, but I don't think that really does too much other than spawn a drone. I guess you get 2 drones, right? So he could fill the board, and if he fills the board, is ForeverYOLO going to have space for these cards?
He will. He has the ping of that Slave Hunter to open up space if he needs to. So luckily for ForeverYOLO, that Slave Hunter actually being incredibly valuable here. Tailbot will not even be able to fill up his own rows to block a Cantarella due to that being on the board here. So Tailbot thinking about what exactly ForeverYOLO's last 2 cards might look like. Going to end up clogging his own row, but that does mean that he can't have any space for Yurden, though. So, I mean, ForeverYOLO could also just opt to... Ooh. ForeverYOLO could just play... I guess he just play Cantarella now, then. I suppose he just has no choice but to play Cantarella with the ping.
Ping here in order to play a card. Because, I mean, the alternative is you play the... I guess if you could... Because you can always Cantarella the Erden, right? So you could play the... Or you could play the coup de grace onto a spy. Yeah.
He could just coup de grace. I mean, okay, he just decides to discard the Cantarella. He could have actually also pinged the Joachim and then replayed Joachim with the coup de grace, and then Tailbot still wouldn't have enough space, but I guess he can just do that now. End up going for coup de grace instead on to the vanilla Geralt teams. That will be enough for ForeverYOLO. Tailbot will not be playing, and you see ForeverYOLO starting to get hyped here as he does tie up the series 1-1, getting his win through with Nilfgaard. I think the reason why ForeverYOLO is so excited about this win is because this is Nilfgaard. This is the deck that Tailbot is trying to somewhat target. And getting that win through with the deck that your opponent is trying to target is really, really good news for you, because now cards like Horson Senior in Tailbot's list don't really look all that good anymore. So I think that was a very, very important win for ForeverYOLO here.
Yeah, and I think ForeverYOLO would agree with you in that regard. He is quite the emotive player. You saw quite happy with that result there. And we talked about this being his kind of tricky matchup, the one where he was going to have a hard time. We also talked about using the leader in round 1, but I think because he hit a Neuromancy in round 1, having that access to extra cards and being able to really play your Nilfgaard strategy, that's something that is so beneficial. So even though he'd used leader in round 1, it almost carried over to round 3 because of the dry pass. He had that extra Neuromancy, so he still kind of had his leader in some form, in that he got this really, really powerful card.
Yeah, for sure. That leader ability in round 1, although it did seem like Tailbot had a good pass there, and that, it kind of caught ForeverYOLO off guard. Maybe ForeverYOLO kind of saying to himself, you know what, go ahead, pass, give me final say, see what happens if I go into long round 3 with last say. I don't mind using my leader ability. Yeah, that seems like it was probably ForeverYOLO's thought of mine, as we are going to go into game number 3 soon, where ForeverYOLO and Tailbot neck and neck 1-1. But I think that I would have to say ForeverYOLO having a slight edge now, because he did get that win through with Nilfgaard, which we spoke about being one of the more difficult decks that he's going to have to try find that win through in this series. So very, very good news if you are on Team ForeverYOLO.
Yep, so ForeverYOLO still, I believe, has monsters and
yeah, he's Skellige got banned.
Yeah, so Skellige got banned, so monsters and lined pockets, whereas Tailbot, I believe, has lined pockets and Arachne Swarm.
So we'll have to see what happens now in game number 3. So ForeverYOLO now, I believe, going to be queuing in on... What's the coin? I think he goes on blue now. Tailbot goes on red, I believe.
Yeah, Tailbot will be on red because he was on blue in that game. Basically, the match is set up so the player at the bottom is always the blue coin player. So they'll switch for this one. So we saw Tailbot at the bottom playing on monsters, which means he was on blue. So next round he'll be up at the top playing on red, and we'll see ForeverYOLO playing at the bottom on blue.
Yeah, it's going to be rotated every game. So game number 3. Are we going to see another game 5? Yesterday, 3 of the 4 games did end up going into game number 5. So very, very close series in this tournament so far. I wonder if we're going to see that follow suit in today's matches. As for now, everything is squared off neck and neck against Tailbot and ForeverYOLO, the underdog versus the veteran. And we've seen this narrative time and time again, where I think a lot of times, at least in Homecoming, the underdogs kind of showing it up to the veterans, it seems.
Yeah, I think this tournament, especially the underdogs, have really come out to play. And it is people that have been kind of discounted a little bit in their matchups. You know, I know that ForeverYOLO and Bort seen as the newer players of this tournament. Also, just to shout out what Araveth is saying in the chat, ForeverYOLO has gone off-piste. ForeverYOLO has decided that the Spiro Gwent strategy guide is actually useless, thrown it out the window, and decided that instead of going 0-2 down, he's gonna win this second game and do his own thing, and that may spell disaster for him.
Yep, I mean, not following the Spiro guide is just absolutely. I mean, then again, he did get his win through at Nilfgaard, but he lost the ability to choose coin flips. So I don't know, deviating from the Spiro guide. Not sure if I like that one, but I mean, he did get his win through at Nilfgaard at least.
Yeah, I feel like we have to hand it to YOLO. Yesterday, I was discounting him. He went down 2 sets. He played pretty sloppily, I would say, in those first 2 games. And you could see on his face that he was kind of getting a little bit tilted. I think he was quite fortunate in that game 3 where it was a draw against Shaggy, but that kind of reset his mindset. And we saw him evolve and transition into YOLO Jam. So it's like Pokemon. It's like you got ForeverYOLO, but if you go 2 games down and then have a draw, those are the evolution conditions where he evolves into YOLO Jam. And that's where he becomes more powerful and is generally better. Make sure you get your EVs, of course, because it's Pokemon. But he's in a different mindset today than he was at the start of his series yesterday. And it really shows in the way that he's playing.
Yeah, I kind of spoke about this yesterday when I said that that's going to give ForeverYOLO a lot of confidence and going into today after that win against Shaggy, because we could see it when ForeverYOLO started yesterday. He was very shaky, he was off the bumpy start, but immediately started ramping it up, and he kind of carrying that through today. As we see him, he's already looking so comfortable and quite in his element. Game number 3 now, it's going to be Syndicate versus a Ruckus Swarm, and that is not going to be a great matchup for Tailbot. Finally, ForeverYOLO finding a matchup where he is quite happy to go up against, as this is going to be difficult for Tailbot to win. Syndicate just doesn't have many good answers against the likes of a Ruckus Swarm.
And it can come down a little bit also to the draws and how the hands are looking for this first round. ForeverYOLO, he's got the Endrega eggs there available to him. So he can kind of start to swarm the board using that. There's ways that he can consume it. He's also got Maxi, which you really like to see in round 1 because it means that you can kind of plan your round 2 and your round 3. And if you can't plan your round 2 and your 3 because your draws are absolutely trash, don't worry, Maxi is going to maximize your potential, move something crappy to the bottom of the deck, and just make life better for everyone. And that's why she's the best girl.
Maxi is actually a really nice card in a lot of decks. She recently got a buff, recently-ish, and the ability to just, for so cheap, it's just a 5 provision card with 6 base power, giving you so much information into your deck. And Tailbot going to end up starting things off with that cleaver right away, getting the pressure onto ForeverYOLO, and that is a big spend in round 1. But again, that puts ForeverYOLO under a lot of pressure. Without the Yrden in hand, that cleaver could be quite scary. Then again, he does have a Neuromancer to get
Neuromancy. Yeah, I was about to have a bit of a cough there. But fortunately, you have eyes. You may not be part of Glasses gang, so you're clearly not as cool as me, Tobliat, and ForeverYOLO, but you did manage to spot that lassie just chilling with the buildings. Why is she even doing?
Yeah, but then again, he's spending the Neuromancy now, which means he now no longer has access to that Neuromancy, or that Urine, however, going to end up taking the lock and dealing with that Cleaver right away. But now, besides Whisper's Tribute, there really isn't much answer for the drill if that were to come down.
Yeah, no Purifier available to Tobliat means that this Cleaver has done his thing, and not gonna be spawning lots and lots of friends, and that's great for ForeverYOLO, because if Cleaver's spawning friends, it means cards like Yennefer just don't work as well in this matchup. You want to kind of mitigate as much of your opponent's spawn as you can while spawning your own, and also being some sort of rap god, as you see ForeverYOLO spitting mad lyrics.
Yeah, I think ForeverYOLO definitely jamming it out to some rap, it seems, as he does get the Trigger Warrior on the board, but without any way to consume it, it's actually not looking very good in terms of tempo in round 1. ForeverYOLO might find himself losing on even, especially considering Tailbot still has a very big Novigrad Injustice coming underway, and he could find himself losing on even if he's not careful. Tailbot most likely going to end up, actually goes for the Horse and Senior, and interesting here, I mean, Horse and Senior, unfortunately, in this matchup, it's not really an amazing card. Transforming the Cleaver, I mean, he loses 1 point on the transformation, so it's a 5. It's only going to come down for 5 points of tempo, but it does give 2 Intimidate Engines, which, I mean, Intimidate Engines will be quite scary over a long period of time, especially with this many crimes in hand.
Yeah, you kind of are making hay while the sun shines and getting value out of Wholesome Senor as and when you can. I really, really hope that ForeverYOLO is listening to some like Russian diss track, and he's basically sitting there like BMing. We can't hear him, but that's what's going on. He's basically sitting there saying very crude things about Tobliat and his mother. He's now reading the Quill Gwent strategy guide, in which you cuss out someone's mom or cuss out them by sleeping with their mom. Eventually he may get to the Jagras or the Specimen strategy.
Yeah, I mean the Jagras one will be a very short book, right? It just says chapter 1 2-0, chapter 3 doesn't exist, chapter 2 doesn't exist, just one chapter 2-0, and that's it.
Chapter 1 is 2-0, and chapter 2 is called How Do I Know This Game Was Close? And that's the kind of Jagras strategy guide so far. It's a work in progress. We're getting there.
All right, so here comes another Grand Justice, and here comes the crime value. This is going to put ForeverYOLO under some pressure, as these safecrackers will not come down at any small amount. I think it's going to come down to, what is it, 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 8-point safecracker on deploy, and with 3 Intimidate Engines on the board, ForeverYOLO is noping right on out of here, not even using the tactical advantage, just says, I am not going to play into this. There is no way I'm legitifying all these crime cards. I'm out.
No, he's just grooving. He's like, I will pass. Let's move on. And Gravesh has joined us here in the chat to talk smack about players who did better than him in this tournament. Let's see how that works out for him. I'm sorry, Gravesh. That was harsh. Gravesh is here to talk smack about them. I'm here to talk smack about Gravesh. It's like the circle.
Who's this Gravesh you speak of? I know this guy called Just Headbutt Play. I don't know about a Gravesh. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's just head, butt play. You've got to look at the capitalization that CDPR gave him.
Okay, I see. And going into round number 2 of this round. So what exactly is Tailbot going to do here? Without the Cleaver and without the Justice, bleeding becomes a little bit more challenging. He's got a lot of crime cards in hand, but not much in terms of Intimidate Engine value. So there is going to be a bit of a difficult... It's going to be a bit difficult for Tailbot to get value. Again, this drill also not looking too amazing without much Crown Splitters.
That Tobliat, he really didn't do so well at his design and tech at school. You know, when they taught you how to use a drill, and it said you need crown splitters on your left, you need crown splitters on your right, and then you will be a master screwer. But it turns out Tobliat didn't get the memo. And yeah, Tunnel Drill not looking so spicy. Safecracker also plays so nicely into this Crimson Curse because it goes so tall. It gives you, you know that there's going to be value in that over the course of the turns, even if your opponent doesn't play anything else. And on top of that, Syndicate is one of these decks that really doesn't have the Veil units that other units have to absorb some of the bleeding.
For sure, and the Crimson Curse will be a nice way for ForeverYOLO to defend the bleed, as it will start getting quite a bit of value on that Safecracker. So now ForeverYOLO going to just start swarming the board. And this Tunnel Drill, I mean, it might not have a mass amount of Crown Splitters, but it's still, even without any Crown Splitters, you can still use the drill to kill off 1-point drones. And those 1-point drones will grow to 3, 4, 5 points So getting that drill to kill 1-point drones is basically the same thing as killing 3 or 4-point drones later on anyway. So that drill will always be incredibly valuable. And ForeverYOLO, I think, spent that. He spent the lock in round 1, so his options to deal with drill efficiently are somewhat limited. I think he still has a parasite, if not mistaken, but other than that, he needs to be careful about what he's going to do about this drill in future of this round.
Yeah, Parasite is still available to ForeverYOLO. And bear in mind, we're only at 8 cards in this round 2. So because we're only at 8 cards, we haven't hit that, milestone, that tipping point that is the 7-card mark, where you decide if you're going for the bleed or not. With that said, ForeverYOLO, he's just happy to establish some swarm, right? You just establish a little bit of swarm as we go down to 7, and then he can decide to put his pedal to the metal and blaze off into the sunset.
Man, ForeverYOLO actually letting Tailbot know. You go with the emotes there, get some little bit of friendly banter between these two, as ForeverYOLO, I believe, did get off a cheeky little emote there to Tailbot. Just letting him know what's up, as he does end up swarming the board a little bit more. And look at all this payoff in ForeverYOLO's hand. He's got double Chimera. He has the talisman. He might have lost on even, but this is a very strong hand to defend the bleed with in this round 2.
I get why people are, I don't know, saying that YOLO is BM or that he's being, this or that. Like, it's Tailbot. Oh, sorry, someone's being BM to Tailbot, the guy who goes around saying he's going to destroy his opponents. Like, come on, have a little perspective here. But also, you could tell with ForeverYOLO, he's just jamming. Like, he's trying to give Brother Jams a run for his money. And if that's what works for him, then honestly, who gives a shit? Like, would you rather have players that just sit there staring deadpan into their camera, or would you rather have face cams that make a difference? Like, literally, we could pause Tailbot's face cam at this moment in time, and nobody would have any idea about it, right? So when you look at it like that, I just feel like, give the guy a break.
Chagris,
like,
didn't you know emotions are cheat? We are all robots here, and there's no emotions allowed. Dead
so I guess
serious.
Tailbot gives it away, doesn't it? So he is a robot, but I don't know, Spirit, you're a robot?
Yes, I am a robot. That's how I stream 6 hours a day.
Oh, that doesn't make sense, actually. That's how you play so much Gwent and still have a soul. Like, I guess robots don't have souls. Do robots have souls? We're getting into theology territory here.
We are known to have souls, but we refer to them as different things.
Let's have a look at actually what's going on here. So Shakedown coming out from Tailbot puts him at that lovely 9-coin pocket, thins the Flying Redanian. And I think Tailbot would have loved to see that Flying Redanian go to the melee row.
Yeah, that Flying Redanian going to the range row there is, I guess it doesn't really matter. Only 1 tick of bleeding left doesn't actually end up meaning that's going to get killed at any point. As Tailbot now still trying to keep the pressure on. ForeverYOLO does have a lot of payoff in this hand, so it is going to be quite difficult for Tailbot to actually put any kind of real pressure on ForeverYOLO. That being said, though, also this Tavern Brawl not looking so great in this matchup for sure. This is going to be a very, very iffy matchup for the Tavern Brawl to find good value.
Yeah, we've seen a few players pick this Tavern Brawl, and I guess it's part of that Nilfgaard targeting strategy, right? Same with Wholesome Jr., but not really working out in the way that you want it to in this matchup. Like, ForeverYOLO can quite easily play around it with the way that he positions his units. There's so many small units on the board that it's quite easy to make sure that you don't have two, big beastie boys next to each other. The other thing to note here is that ForeverYOLO is quite happy to hit that Safecracker because Wholesome Senior has already been played. So this is the sort of thing that would have been maybe a nice transform, turning that marked for death halfling into a cut up lackey or whatever they're called. But alas, it was played in round 1.
Man, ForeverYOLO really jamming it out here. More emotes coming through as we see down comes the Tavern, not the Tavern Brawl, but the drill that is going to end up killing out some of these tokens for now, as ForeverYOLO going to end up putting an end to it with that Whisper Street coming down with the Parasite, and that will be the end of the drill. Drill will be decommissioned. That will be the last we see of the drill.
And no burrs today. I can't roll my R's, so my Jogo burr is not going to be. It's like the drill is cold. Like the Jogo's burr doesn't work. Can you roll your R's, Spiro?
There we go.
Like a cat. It's the title drill. Also a cat. That's
cat drill.
A cat drill. Fair enough. How's this bleed going? Would you say?
I mean, this bleed it's an out of necessity, right? Tailbot doesn't have much choice. If he goes to long round 3, he's certainly doomed. It's not really going that well for him. But again, it's not really going that bad either, considering the fact that Tailbot is he did win on evens, so at the worst case scenario, he goes into round 3 on equal cards. So at this point, Tailbot just trying to squeeze everything that he can out of ForeverYOLO before going into round 3. With as much bad cards as you can. That's the one benefit of bleeding is, you can kind of trade bad cards for good cards, and especially when you win uneven, there's no real punishment. The downside of doing that is, of course, you have to worry about card advantage, so trade bad cards for good cards. The risk is going a card down, but when you win uneven, there is no risk of going a card down at that point.
Yeah, Tavern Brawl is a bad card in this situation. Do you have an Uwu emote? Are you secretly an e-girl?
No. That was someone took a screenshot of context and then Anda things and
out of context. So you weren't trying to do that uwu thing.
No, I was mocking chat. I was mocking chat for it, and then someone took a photo of it or took a screenshot.
I like how you're saying. So it was out of context in that the context was you were doing that emote. No, so I feel like it's not really out of context.
The context was I was showing chat how papega they were with that, and therefore apparently end up getting taken out of context as me being a Uwu friend.
Well, you're an Uwu friend, so when's the hot tub stream?
No. Not you two.
I have on good authority that that's a potential. What if you get hit a sub goal? It can be a sub goal, right?
Oh god, yeah, I'll make a 10,000 sub goal. There we go.
Right, you guys heard it here first. There, it's on. We've got it recorded. You can't go back on it now. 10,000 subs. Let's do it. Give the people what they want, Spiro.
Any millionaires in the chat? All right, so let's see what ends up happening here. As Tailbot now will end up playing the assault. That is going to force ForeverYOLO in a bit of a weird position. You don't really want to play the Yennefer, so you're going to have to go for the Neuromancy. I can't actually remember if this is the first or second use of the Neuromancy. I think that's the second, which means now ForeverYOLO will not have any consistency in round number 2, or round number 3 rather, as 20-point lead. Have to overcommit a little bit. Tailbot going to keep his last card. Doesn't actually have a way to play it. Can't play his last card, in fact. So it's going to be Gord versus Yennefer in this round 3. What else can ForeverYOLO find to help swarm the board for this yen value?
That really, fortunate winning round 1 on even there that he could bleed. It's one of those situations that's quite nice if you can win on even and you're able to bleed. And we saw him commit quite heavily in order to be able to do this, is have that bleed and kind of deal with these sorts of issues. If you look at the hands, a Neuromancy available for Tailbot. He's also got the Kurt, but decides not really something that he needs, which is fair. It's just a 6-point body. Heat Wave. I mean, there's no toll targets, right? So that's kind of trash as well. Mulligan's out and gets Philippa. Philippa's good. You like to see that, but you've got 2 spenders then.
Yeah, I mean, these swarm cards are actually really good for ForeverYOLO. This is gonna be a big Yennefer. The spontaneous evolution with the Behemoth and the Yennefer. I think ForeverYOLO pretty much drew as well as he could have. The Yennefer is going to play for so many points. The Urden, I mean, not having Urden doesn't really matter, I think, if you don't have final say. So this hand, I think, is going to be quite tough for Tailbot to beat.
Yeah, there's just so many units, and Tailbot doesn't really have a good way of putting a lot of units on the board. He has access to his gourd with the Neuromancy, which you always like to see. He's got his Philippa and money in the bank, so he can kidnap, the biggest unit on Tailbot's side of the board. There's also the Flying Redanian coming out here at 9 coins. But, he doesn't really have a lot of profit. His hand is full of spenders. So he probably would have liked to see a little bit more profit going on with this hand.
Yeah, this is looking really bad for Tailbot here. This junior, I mean, the junior can actually be a nice little spender. You can kill off a lot of these insectoids with that junior. And I'm not sure if ForeverYOLO is, if that's going to take ForeverYOLO off guard. This junior actually can do some pretty good work. Let's see what Tailbot's going to be able to do here, as I do expect to see the junior coming down very soon to try and control a little bit of this swarm.
Yeah, how many bugs can he smash? If we say, he's got 6 damage on deploy and he can gain money from that. The problem, I guess, is you have to click the Sea Jackal a couple times just to under profit, but you maybe don't want to click twice. I was going to say you don't want to click twice because then your fee 3, you can only play twice. I don't know if I agree with this. So he clicked the Sea Jackal twice. I guess if he hits a 2, actually, he goes back up to 9, so it's fine. Then squashes 3 more bugs here, spending all the way down to 0. It means, though, that your Philippa's kind of meh, right? Unless you use your Neuromancy to find profit, but then you're passing up on Harold.
I mean, Philippa in this matchup isn't really going to find too much value anyway. ForeverYOLO now probably going to end up playing he's got to be careful here. If Tailbot does end up getting some more coins, he can still kill some more bugs. ForeverYOLO just going to get more swarm on the board, and just that is going to be a massive Yennefer. This Yennefer value is going to be insane. I don't think Tailbot's going to be able to deal with it. He has Philippa, he has a Neuromancy for a Gord, but I just don't think it's enough. This Yennefer is so much. But then again, Gord is also a lot of points too.
It's a kind of an unfortunate situation with this Philippa, but looking at his deck, there's not really a lot that's better. You know, like you've got bloody good fun, which you profit for and then spend all your coins to kill something, which it doesn't really work because you want to profit and use Whoreson. Then you've got the Fistex, which are absolute garbage. So he's kind of been lucky with his mulligans a little bit that he didn't hit those. He's opting instead to use the coins there on the Abduct. He's going to have 2 coins to click the Jackal, and he's going to have the
Ooh, look at that.
Gord. This is going to be quite... I don't know. I guess not close, actually.
I mean, it's really close, actually. His last card is going to be a Gord, and this Gord is going to be big. How big exactly is it, though? Is it big enough? He's 15 on Gord to tie, 16 to win. I'm never going to be 16.
He's got 3 special cards in deck, so I don't think it's going to be quite big
enough. Just shy. Very, very close game, though, by 2 points. ForeverYOLO now 1 win away from getting to the grand finals and knocking out potentially the veteran Tailbot. You got to imagine ForeverYOLO feeling really good now. All the momentum seems to be behind him as he is so close to getting into that grand final position.
And then we both get it wrong, and Spessy will be winning on predictions. I don't like this timeline anymore, but at least I'm going to beat Spiro because I predicted the same things as him.
That's actually so cheating. Actually, net deck me just to block me out of getting any chance of winning.
Do you want me to change my prediction to ForeverYOLO? Would that make you feel better?
Yes.
Yes.
At least I have yes, because then at least I have some chance of winning.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we need to let Spessy have his moment to shine. He doesn't get them very often, right? I mean, you've seen him play on ladder, so we got to let him have his moment to shine as and when he can. We'll let him have this one. So, last but not least, what does ForeverYOLO have left?
I believe his last deck is going to be Syndicate, so Tailbot is going to have to beat Syndicate twice in a row if he wants to end up winning the series.
So yeah, but the good news is he can pick the coin, right?
Yes, that is true. He can pick the coin. So I mean, that means just Tailbot's winning the series, right? Like he can pick the coin, like just easy win for Tailbot, right? Just pick the coins, win the games. Very simple.
So part of the problem is he's got to beat Syndicate with Syndicate, and Tailbot's Syndicate list is teched for Nilfgaard. So objectively, you would say that ForeverYOLO's Syndicate list is better.
Yes. However, the thing it's always interesting to think about when it comes to these tech choices, that's the big risk when you take these cards. Some cards, they are obviously really good in some matchups, but they're really bad in other matchups. And Whoreson Senior is one of those cards which he doesn't really get that much value outside of the Nilfgaard matchup. So because of the fact that Tailbot did let the Nilfgaard end up going through for ForeverYOLO early on, it does mean that he's stuck with these tech cards that, you know, for the most part, possibly are going to be liabilities for Tailbot in these remaining games. So we'll have to see how much that ends up impacting these games for ForeverYOLO, as he is going to be pretty happy to see that Whoreson Senior going and looking and saying, "Yeah, what are you going to do this Senior? I don't care. Play your Senior. Not a very good card anymore against me. No more Nilfgaard that I have to worry about."
So Tailbot, he still has his Syndicate left, and also his Nilfgaard, I believe, imprisonment.
Yeah, Tailbot's stuck on his Nilfgaard and monsters.
Monsters,
Syndicate and monsters rather for Tailbot, whereas ForeverYOLO does have his own Syndicate. So
imprisonment was the bat and anyone with Skellige,
yeah. This matchup should be decent for Tailbot. Once again, we did see this matchup just happen underway, whereas this time Tailbot will be the one playing monsters and ForeverYOLO will be the one playing Syndicate. So we'll have to take a look and see if there's anything different going to happen. Not an easy matchup for Syndicate. Again, without the drill, there really isn't much left for Syndicate to actually deal with all this swarm ability.
Yeah, we've seen it happen before, and we may see it happen again. Maybe we'll have game 5s. I mean, yesterday we had 20 games, including the tie, which equates to about 5 games per series. And it just seems like that's the way that the tournaments have been going recently. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? Like, does that suggest that things are balanced?
I'm not sure how. One of the things you can derive from that is sometimes in metas where there's like when there's some very strong faction, one very weak faction, what can end up happening is people can get the wins through the stronger factions, and then it becomes a battle of who can get a win with the weak link. that sometimes does end up resulting in a lot of 3-2 series. I don't think that's necessarily the case in this one. No faction really stands out to me as the bad faction, other than perhaps Northern Realms. There are definitely some tier 1 decks and there are some tier 2 decks, but I think there are enough tier 2 and tier 3 decks where you don't really have that problem where you're like, damn, I'm going to have to... It's all about winning with my Squirtle, all about winning with my Northern Realms for that matter. So I think it's just been a bit of a coincidence, honestly.
Yeah, so Tailbot opening with the Maxi, looking into the future and seeing what he will draw. There is no RNG in Gwent when you play Maxi. Well, there's no RNG in draws. I guess you have cards that do RNG.
Unless Maxi shuffles and everything goes back to the same order that you saw originally. That can happen. I can tell you for a fact that can happen.
I can tell you for a fact too, because if you hover over the card, that's what it tells you it does. So ForeverYOLO kind of deciding how he wants to open up in this matchup. It's not one where you really care about being an uninteractive friend, because Tailbot has plenty of cards that are unreactive. But you can see here ForeverYOLO doing what Tailbot did in the last game and really putting pressure on his opponent with this cleaver opening play, telling your opponent, I'm here to cause some disaster. This cannot be parasited as it's at 5. It's too small for Geralt. So how do you deal with cleaver?
Yeah, the cleaver is an awkward one for sure for Tailbot. He can't parasite, he doesn't have Doggeray in hand. I'm not even sure if he runs Doggeray, to be honest. And it is not something that he can deal with. He's gonna have to, I think, let it just grow to like 9+ and then Geralt it at some point. But for now, there really isn't anything that Tailbot can do about it. Looks like ForeverYOLO kind of copying exactly what Tailbot did in the game number 3 there, as he's going to lead off right away with his own cleaver and put some pressure on Tailbot, trying to win on even, similar to how Tailbot approached the first matchup of this.
Yeah, and the problem there is, like, if you want it to grow to 9 in order to Geralt it, you can't play Crimson Curse, because that kind of is counterintuitive. Maybe if it bled once, then you can think about Parasite, but the problem is because of the Intimidate tag, ForeverYOLO's cleaver is going to be growing. He's a small man, but he's going to be growing. I guess he's a dwarf, he's not a man. He's a small dwarf, but he's going to be growing with every crime that occurs. So it means that you can't really play Crimson Curse in round 1. And that's one of the things you want to do to provide yourself with some tempo and try and secure the round. So actually this opening play really heads up by ForeverYOLO.
Yeah, the thing is, though, it does end up playing to Geralt at some point, and it also means that ForeverYOLO may have a bit of a more difficult time getting those. Man, look at ForeverYOLO. He is having the time of his life right now. He's going to have a difficult time getting those crown spells later for Drill, perhaps, as he just opts to not play the Novigrad Injustice. So we're seeing a little bit of a deviation here compared to what Tailbot did earlier, as ForeverYOLO perhaps going to try greed it out a little bit and maybe preserve that Justice to get those crown spells for round number 2 for that Drill value.
The thing is with the cleaver, it's also a spender, right? So if it does die at 9, if ForeverYOLO gets those spends out of it to try and swarm, he's already counteracting a little bit of Tailbot's potential with Yennefer. So yes, it's kind of bad that it's growing, but you can also reach a point where that can be beneficial. And you can use that to turn your 4 coins of spend into 5, which is a pretty good conversion rate at the moment, of coins into profit or coins into points. At the moment, I would say you heavily want to invest in coins because the returns are quite good. But once Geralt comes onto the board, that is time where you want to sell, because the market is going to crash.
Crash indeed, as one more crime card and it will come crashing down on ForeverYOLO here, as that Geralt is going to be lurking in Tailbot's hand, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. And now is that time, as this cleaver will spend one more time before it dies. Tailbot has the Geralt available to him to deal that cleaver. That is a 12-point Geralt that also kills an engine and a spender. So very nice value there for Tailbot, and pretty much the only way he can kill cleaver. The question is, though, is Tailbot going to use this Geralt now, or does maybe Tailbot ever preserve it? Looks like he's going to go for it now and try get his card back. That does put Tailbot now up by 10 points. Can ForeverYOLO?
Yeah, I was going to say that's where you take your shot. Like before, it's been used to swarm. Sometimes it's hard to find Geralt value when your opponent isn't running the soul in this matchup. So, make hay while the sun shines, kill cleavers while they're at 9 points, and deny the profit. It puts you ahead, so it means that you're not scared of losing on even, which we saw previously. And all in all, it means that Tailbot is probably feeling, if he has feelings, he's feeling quite good. He eats sad.
Yeah, hard to tell right now. Tailbot having the robot-like focus as he is trying to play this as meticulously as he can. Getting that game 4 win will allow him to get into game number 5 and try get that spot, the grand finals, as ForeverYOLO is the one leading things off in this game number 4 here with the shakedown now. Going to give Tailbot a pass. The question is, does Tailbot take this pass at a full bank for ForeverYOLO? Looking a little bit scary to play into this. Let's see if Tailbot decides to take this pass or not.
We shall see. I mean, he's got a little bit of swarm going on, so yes, you're a little bit threatened by the bank. And because you've played your Geralt, it means that a Sea Jackal can afford to go toll. The thing is, how is ForeverYOLO going to spend these coins? He's got Tunnel Drill, and that's an option. But if Tailbot gets Tunnel Drill out of ForeverYOLO in round 1, does he mind?
Yeah, I mean, Tailbot did get out the Justice in not Justice rather, the Cleave in round 1, which is something quite big. So losing round 1 after getting Justice out, I don't think Tailbot is super upset about how this round 1 has went. He takes the pass here, and now ForeverYOLO will have to play the Jackal, click once, and I mean, Cleaver going round 1 is a bit of a spin, but at least ForeverYOLO does get to keep the Novigradian Justice. However, bleeding against this Arrakis Swarm deck is not easy for Syndicate. Drill is the only thing that gives them any hope, and I'm not sure if Drill alone is going to be enough to carry ForeverYOLO through this game.
I don't think so either. We do see a Safecracker being drawn by ForeverYOLO. We saw a 3-point Safecracker yesterday.
We did indeed.
We saw someone win with a 3-point Safecracker, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's not even a halfling. That's a quarterling at that point.
Yeah, I would say though, in terms of fractions, not the tallest ling in the shed. I don't know why he's in a shed. So blue player, looking at this hand, there's options. Even with this bleed, your opponent never played Crimson Curse in round 1, so they can use that to provide some tempo. So even if you do open with something like the Halfling Safecracker, as we see YOLO here doing, it does mean that Tailbot, he can answer with that Crimson Curse and start to whittle it down. But does he want to play that as his first card when ForeverYOLO hasn't committed to a bleed yet?
Yeah, I mean, we see the Safecracker coming down now and possibly going to be... Oh, no Justice. It's ForeverYOLO mulligan away the Justice, but unfortunately does not have Folk or anything. So this is going to be a little bit of an awkward bleed for him. He doesn't have really much ways to spend the coins other than the Drill or the Jacques. But again, do you really want to spend Jacques in round number 2? I guess you could also spend Philip, I suppose, but ForeverYOLO going to have to figure out how he's going to spend these coins, as we do see Tailbot now going to answer that Safecracker right away, and now ask ForeverYOLO what he wants to do. I think Tailbot trying to perhaps brick the Novigradian Justice. They're not aware that ForeverYOLO actually doesn't have any access to the Justice, as we now see Eavesdrop going to be used from ForeverYOLO. What exactly is he going to find with this?
He found a what's he called?
Bloody Good Fun, I believe. That one
Bloody Good Fun
will get sent right back
found
to
a crime. But he has managed to thin his Redanium. Yeah, I was going to say not the best card ever. Who needs Bloody Good Fun when you're already having a bloody good jam, right?
Although it looks like ForeverYOLO may have paused the jam, trying to focus up, it seems, in this game as Tailbot's hand looking relatively good. He's got the Crimson Curse, he's got some Swarm available, he's got a nice balance between Payoff and Swarm, so it's looking good for Tailbot here. He definitely has a well-balanced hand to defend this bleed, as ForeverYOLO at the same time has a full gold hand, but that doesn't necessarily equate to a well-balanced hand. So let's see how that's going to work out for ForeverYOLO.
Yeah, and he's coming into the bleed here, so at this point, I don't think it's going to be difficult for Tailbot to play more than 3 in this situation. He's just got to decide how much he wants to spend. Those leader charges are quite expensive, but you need at least 1 for your spontaneous evolution. You need to have an insectoid in order to boost it, to trigger this effect. So opting for a leader charge and just beginning to swarm a little bit. He doesn't have to commit too much until he sees ForeverYOLO start to commit things like potentially the Tunnel Drill or the Jacques.
Yeah, we see now down will come this Philippa to try empty the bank a little bit. Philippa will end up stealing a token. The nice thing about Philippa in this matchup is it puts 1 body on your side of the board. Actually, it puts 2 bodies on your side of the board and removes 1 from your opponent. So 3 bodies that basically end up getting, you net 3 bodies, which makes the Yennefer a little bit worse. However, Tailbot now going to end up playing the Crimson Curse, keeping him ahead by 1 point. And let's see how ForeverYOLO is going to have to say about this now.
And getting more and more bodies on the board. He's letting the bodies hit the board. I'm not going to go down that route. That's maybe what he's jamming to. I've decided, well, it doesn't make sense for him to be jamming to that if Tailbot's playing Araka Swarm. So yeah, Crimson Curse, we talked about Tailbot holding this, and it's a really nice card to defend the bleed, because you defend the bleed by bleeding your opponent, but it's just good value over time. And it means that you can opt to play some things that are a bit lower tempo. You also add your 2 Ekamaras and your Arakas to the board, so you get 3 bodies on top of that. And ForeverYOLO doesn't really have Veil. This list doesn't have Veil in the same way, so it's not as problematic as playing against other decks or other factions.
Yeah. The bleeds here definitely will put ForeverYOLO under some pressure. However, that being said, look where this bleed hit. It hit the Flying Ardean. If another bleed hits the Flying Ardean may end up dying. And if it dies, ForeverYOLO could play the Siggy, get himself back to Horde 9, and once again, the Flying Ardean will return from the graveyard, similar to the Flying Dutchman, and come back on the road. Very nice way to potentially block some bleeds here, especially if it returns a second time around to the melee row and soak up even more bleed value there. As we now see, down will come this Ruckus Behemoth, keeping Tailbot just ahead once more, as ForeverYOLO now. There goes Flying. Very unlucky pings there for the bleed for Tailbot, but ForeverYOLO going to be quite happy with how those bleeds went and hit the boat.
It's like a 1 in 4 that it hits the same thing twice, I believe, with 2 cards on the board.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can do maths potentially. If there's more units, it gets trickier. So ForeverYOLO, though, opting to spend down to 3, which means that Siggy Reuben is coming out to play. The Flying Redanian is going to come flying out of the graveyard, denying the
Ooh, back in the melee row.
Is it going to happen again? We got to the 1 in 4.
Oh boy,
we've got a few more pings.
Yep, it could happen again. There's still 3 turns of bleed available, so this Flying Ardean might go and soak up some more bleed, as Tailbot will end up playing the Chimera off the location, and that will, again, just narrowly keep Tailbot ahead. The bleeds this time around will be more cooperative, as it does hit the drone instead. So now ForeverYOLO deciding when exactly does he want to commit his cards. Yeah, I don't think ForeverYOLO is going to get his card back. I think at this point he's probably just going to accept going a card down, and then trying to get as much out from Tailbot as possible.
I think it depends, right? Like he could go burr here, or like a cat if you're if you're Sparrow. But I don't think it's worth it, right? Because that's one of your key pieces for denying Swarm, and you want to deny Swarm in round 3 especially. We saw how powerful Swarm can be in round 3 if you can't deny it. So maybe if you're expecting to go down a card, then you want to hold your tools. But instead, actually putting a bounty on the Ekamara, I don't think that's the target he wants to kill. But the thing is, if Tailbot boosts these Arakas once more, they're up at 4, and then the Tunnel Drill can't do its thing, and it can only drill the Ekamara instead.
Yeah, we see, I actually want to point out, ForeverYOLO doing some math. They're trying to spend exactly enough coins to stay ahead of potential cards that he expects Tailbot to play here. And now Tailbot does have himself a 10-point lead with some bleed still. And I believe the Chimera plays for what is that, 4 + 5? So it's going to end up playing for 9 points, which I think does still get Tailbot ahead once again. So not sure exactly what ForeverYOLO was trying to stay ahead of there, but Chimera, I think, will be enough for now for Tailbot.
Yeah, not entirely sure. And it's a tricky one with the maths in this situation with the Crimson Curse, because it might put bleeding on something, it might deal 2 damage to the bleeding thing. Like, it's kind of annoying, that RNG element of the Crimson Curse. And so far, ForeverYOLO's been quite forever lucky with the pings hitting that Flying Redanian. But we see Tailbot here just continuing to swarm the board, continuing to play out cards, and continuing to stay just that little bit ahead of ForeverYOLO. And this is what you want to do. You want to win, but you want to win without overcommitting. And, winning by 30-odd points isn't great, because it's 30-odd points that you've wasted for the next round.
Oh, definitely it's true in that regard. You don't want to be overcommitting at all to this round, as ForeverYOLO, I don't think, has any chance to regain card advantage. Going to use the Tavern Brawl here, going to collect that bounty and get himself a little bit of more coin cover going into round number 2. At this point, ForeverYOLO is going to give up with the way this round is going to go and say, you know what, my best odds, I'll just keep the drill, keep the justice, and try and win a short round 3 down a card, but at least with maximum coin carryover. So let's see what happens in round number 3, as Tailbot still has the Yennefer, still has 4 leader charges, and still has, I believe, Yurden to answer maybe something like a Gord.
Yeah, the last say and the first say, right, because of this card advantage, I believe. which is really nice. It's nice to have those options and have that options with the Erden should you find it. And there we go, Toblia. He's able to draw cards. He is a talented fellow. He has been reading not Spiro's Guide to Gwent, because Spiro doesn't know how to draw his cards. Maybe the Jagras Guide to Gwent just says you just need to believe, and belief will get you at least 80% of the way to victory.
Power of belief definitely coming in clutch here for Tailbot, as that is a nice looking hand. You got some payoff, you got some swarm, and then you got a Tor Punish there in case down comes the Gord. However, ForeverYOLO doesn't actually have Gord in hand, doesn't actually have just either, and ForeverYOLO will end up forfeiting here, and that means it's all tied up, Jagras. It is going to come down to game number 5, neck and neck once again. This another game decider in the 5th game in the series. So close here. I believe it's going to be a syndicate mirror to decide things for the series.
Yeah, boy. Let's get the mirror on the go. Woo, 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 woo. I don't know why I'm trying to turn. I don't know why I'm trying to turn Gwent into like a football. Like proper.
Jagras has been affected by the YOLO jams. I think.
Nah, I'm still Team Tailbot, because I did predict Tailbot, so we got to stick with our guns and also want to beat Specimen. I've already beaten you. I've already beaten Quill. Specimen in my sights, ready to be taken down by the one person who doesn't play on Pro Ladder. So, just to rub a little bit of salt in the wounds.
But yeah, we're going to see this final matchup between Syndicates here. And it's going to be an interesting one, because these decks do function somewhat differently with that Horse and Senior. I don't know. Do you think the Horse and Senior are going to be a detriment or a benefit here for Tailbot in this game?
I think Wholesome Senior is Garbaggio. He's top quality trash. He is a terrible card in this matchup. He is giving Tailbot disadvantages. However, if Tailbot believes in the heart of his cards and manages to draw like a Tail God, because he read the Jagras strategy guide to Gwent, then he could win, right? Draws are huge in a mirror as well. Yes, I would say that ForeverYOLO has the advantage in terms of the deck versus the deck, but we've seen players draw terribly, and we've seen players draw very well, and that could be what decides this match.
The question is, though, what's the coin flip looking like? I believe this time around it's going to be ForeverYOLO, I think, on blue coin. In the mirror, you kind of want to have red, I think. So that at least will be in favor of Tailbot. Then again, that Horse and Senior is going to be a bit of a downside. But let's see how this goes down, as this is the game decider. The winner of this game, assuming there's no ties, will end up be the one that will go into the grand finals and will face off against either Piable or Bart in the grand finals. What exactly, do you know if the prize pool is in this tournament? I actually didn't see it.
20 grand all in, $20,700 is the total prize pool. Obviously that goes up and up and up depending on how you do, so we'll have to wait and see what the stake is, but there is a decent chunk of change. But also you're qualifying for World Masters, and World Masters comes with its own prizing depending on qualifying, so you've also got that on top of everything else that you win. And let's see who is more of a smooth criminal here as we look at these syndicate hands. Who has the halflings? Who has the crimes? Who's pumping up the jams? What do you think?
I believe, do both these lists play Tamriel? I think they do. And Tamriel's actually pretty good in the mirror. It means you can answer Cleaver quite efficiently. So they both have a nice way to deal with the Cleaver here. And looking at both of these hands, you really want to have as many crime cards in your opening hand as possible. Tailbot, on the other hand, he has a lot of crimes, but he also has access to both Justice and a Safecracker. Whereas looking at ForeverYOLO's hand, he has only access. I guess he could go Neuromancy into a Safecracker if he wants to. And we do see down will come that Neuromancy, right, or rather that Justice right away does not opt to go for the Neuromancy onto the Safecracker. However, just taking the Safecracker off the Justice for now.
Yep, so we saw the Farco into the Justice, into the Safecracker, basically. 7-point Safecracker is not too bad. It gives Tolbliat a little bit of information about where ForeverYOLO is sitting in terms of his criminal history and his criminal intent. If Tolbliat was a detective, he'd know who was more criminal. But as it is, he's corrupt. And Tolbliat has, 1, 2, 3, 4 crimes in hand? So all things kind of equal?
Yeah, I mean, Tolbliat or Tailbot, rather. I'm going to stick to Tailbot. Tailbot has got quite a few crimes here. He's going to play the Safecracker. I think Tailbot 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, okay, the same amount. Both going to have 7-point Safecrackers. Both players do have the same the same level of safecrackers here. However, Tailbot has the option of maybe not committing Justice if he doesn't want to. I mean, we've already seen ForeverYOLO play the Justice. Maybe Tailbot wants to say, you know what, you play your Justice, I'm going to keep my Justice, and it's fine. I don't really need to commit to this round. I want to lose round 1 anyway. As now the question is, will we see a counter commit from Tailbot, or does Tailbot want to preserve that Justice for later rounds?
Yeah, resource management is the key in mirror matches. And whereas ForeverYOLO, he did find some Justice in the world. So far for Tailbot, he has to decide when and if it's time to go Justice. And like, you have this argument that you can mirror your opponent, right? That is something that you can do. So we see a Neuromancy coming out to play here. And Furko, I'd imagine this is the Justice once again. Turns out there is Justice in the world.
Tailbot now going to match ForeverYOLO, saying anything you can do, I can do better. As Tailbot now going to be tempoing ahead. And this is where things get dangerous in the mirror, because ForeverYOLO decided not to go invest in Neuromancy onto the Safecracker, and Tailbot perhaps maybe going to try punish this now, playing his Safecracker here with the Justice, and now ForeverYOLO has to figure out how he's going to get out of this round. He doesn't have many good spenders in round 1. He has maybe the Drill, but you don't really want to spend Drill in round 1. He has a Neuromancy for perhaps a spender, but it is going to be a bit awkward for ForeverYOLO. Let's see if he can get out of this round 1. You definitely do not want to be losing on even in the mirror.
It's a tough one because he kind of has to look into the ways that he can commit. I mean, he has Philippa onto a Safecracker at 7, but that is expensive, right? That is a big spend. I mean, I feel like ForeverYOLO, he's already kind of just YOLO'd this round 1 and kind of gone balls to the wall with the way that he's been spending here. Like, he's not afraid to play cards. Tavern Brawl coming out now, so, you know, Cleaver basically free for Tailbot should he want to play it later on.
And out will come that Flying Redanian for ForeverYOLO here, and that is going to get ForeverYOLO up a couple of points here. But now Tailbot going to play the Horse Insignia, and this will end up playing for 8 points of tempo, which means that it does give ForeverYOLO a pass. And with 3 Intimidate Angels on the board, I think ForeverYOLO is going to get the pass. He did expend the Tavern Brawl. That is a big card in the mirror. It means dealing with the Cleaver is going to be a lot more difficult for Tailbot later on. So for ForeverYOLO later on, however, but he does end up perhaps getting first say in round 3. Now the question becomes, do we expect to see a bleed come out from Tailbot or not?
The question is, why would you bleed, right? If you feel like you've spent less than your opponent at this stage, then you don't bleed. One thing to note is Tailbot hasn't thinned his Flying Redanian, and ForeverYOLO has, so Tailbot does have a big fat brick in his deck, ready to ruin his day potentially. So I don't know, like, I mean, we've seen ForeverYOLO is quite willing to spend cards, so maybe you think, oh, well, he's willing to jam cards. He might jam too much just to get card advantage, and then that could be a win. But I mean, do you bleed?
Yeah, I mean, the downside about having about try passing the mirror is that you do end up potentially going into round number 3 without first say. And first say in this mirror can be beneficial. Getting your engine set up before your opponent and then being able to react to them without losing value on your intimidates can be quite valuable. So there is a bit of an upside of having first say, but at the same time, bleeding is quite challenging in this mirror. So we'll have to see what Tailbot's thoughts are, as both players, or especially ForeverYOLO, ForeverYOLO having a really good hand in this round, whereas Tailbot not quite having what he needs to do a full-on bleed. So let's see what Tailbot decides to do. I do think I might expect to see a dry pass with a hand like that from Tailbot, so may just end up going to straight to round 3.
I think what we may see Tailbot do, we've already seen him play the Swindle there to get some coins in the bank. He can go down to 7 and still be comfortable. So what he may do here is just dip that Sea Jackal into the Pawn Tower. Fortunately for Sea Jackals, they're men of the sea, so don't think he'll quite drown from it. But it'll put Tailbot up at 9 cards and thin that Redanian. And what that means is that if he does opt to pass here, he no longer has the brick that could sink his victory.
Yeah, it seems like Tailbot might indeed just go dipping right on out of this round number 2, as he does get his boat out, where ForeverYOLO still need to get his boat out. Well, I guess ForeverYOLO is right in the boat, but
yeah,
he can just, of course, just end up playing for some carryover, as well as both players will try maximize their coin carryover going into round number 3. Tailbot looks like he's getting ready to take a pass here, and I do expect to see at this point a pass come out from Tailbot after what his plays were in this round.
Yep, so Tollbliat now at that position where he takes the pass, and I think this is a wise choice. I think the scary thing for Tollbliat in this situation is ForeverYOLO has a pretty stacked hand already, whereas Tollbliat is going to need to try and find some of his key puzzle pieces should he be able to jigsaw his way out of this semi-final.
Yeah, let's see if he can do it. If Tailbot can get to that grand final, or is it going to be the newcomer? This is going to be the last round of this series, assuming there's no tie. So let's see how it ends up playing out, as it's going to be a long round 3. The ForeverYOLO does have first say. Tailbot, on the other hand, did manage to hold on to that Tavern Brawl. So the advantage that Tailbot has is he gets to keep Tavern Brawl, whereas ForeverYOLO gets to have first say. Why are there still cards on my screen? I can't see the board.
Because blue is deciding. ForeverYOLO, I think he was at 8 cards, so he can opt to play one more card here should he wish, and he's opted to dip the Flying Redanian into the Pontar, take the coin carryover thin his own Redanian from the graveyard. Doesn't really benefit him, but it means that he's maximized his coin carryover, and he's basically saying, I'd rather throw away the dip in the Pontar and have an extra draw and see more cards.
Yeah, it seems like that is going to be it. So with this round 3 hand for ForeverYOLO, Tailbot getting some nice cards there with that Heatwave and that Horson Jr. ForeverYOLO, what does he have left in deck right now? He is looking for the Gourd, and I guess maybe Kurt could be a nice card too. Kurt in the Mirror can actually be quite good for either purifying a poison or even putting a bounty onto something like maybe a Jacques and then killing it off for some great value there, as Tailbot still looking for his own Gourd and still Tavern Brawl and Cleaver for Tailbot that he needs to find. He's got 1 mulligan remaining. He's going to miss some stuff, it seems, as he will mulligan into the Cleavers. So that's very, very big there. It means the Tailbot can actually keep that in Neuromancy for either something like the Gourd or the Tavern Brawl instead.
Yeah, so he's got options. And bear in mind that ForeverYOLO has played his Tavern Brawl, so ForeverYOLO doesn't necessarily have a good way of dealing with the Cleaver, although he does have Abduction available. That's the one thing Tollbliat has to be scared of. We saw ForeverYOLO play the Tavern Brawl in round 1, and Tavern Brawl is a great way to deal with Cleaver, but ForeverYOLO can also kidnap it, in which case it may be smart for Tollbliat, instead of Tavern Brawling ForeverYOLO's Cleaver, to actually kidnap that one for himself. Then when ForeverYOLO takes it back, he still has Tavern Brawl available to shut it down should he need to.
Yep, that is going to be the case, as ForeverYOLO has a pretty stacked hand, a little bit more stacked than Tailbot's, as he can kind of cherry pick what he picks with that Neuromancy, whereas Tailbot's going to have to make a choice. Either the Tavern Brawl or the Gourd is going to have to be picked, as we see Tailbot now going to start on with that Cleaver, getting that engine on the board, which ForeverYOLO will not be able to answer elegantly, as he did spend that Tavern Brawl in round number 1. So let's see how ForeverYOLO is going to deal with this Cleaver. He could play Bloody Good Fun, he could play Philippa, or he could just ignore it and get his own Cleaver down for the time being.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see the kind of thought process for ForeverYOLO. This is the thing that's a bit tricky here, is like, yes, he established his engine in that he established the Halfling Safecracker, but Tollbliat managed to play the Cleaver, which is a more threatening engine, right? That's the engine that you're more likely to deal with. And if ForeverYOLO stops to deal with this engine, it makes life a little bit more difficult, because now Tollbliat can start to develop more engines and that sort of thing. And he's gone for the Bloody Good Fun, which I think is a fair choice.
It takes Bloody Good Fun. He does overspend by once there. By 1, I believe. He only needs to do 7 damage, but he did actually end up spending all of his coins. So there goes the coin carryover, but he does deal with that Cleaver. And yeah, right now things are all squared off, as ForeverYOLO does have a 1-point lead, but with a 1-card deficit for the time being. This Horson Jr. could actually be a pretty nice card. It could be used right now to kill this Safecracker if Tailbot wants to, or he might actually end up preserving that to maybe deal with the Cleaver later.
I mean, if he uses the Safecracker, not the Safecracker, so the Wholesome Jr. To deal with this Safecracker, it means that Tollbliat is then the one with the engine on the board. Or it's not an engine, but it's a spender. And it puts ForeverYOLO in a position where he has to decide what to do. But Tollbliat actually opting to just put the poison down on the Safecracker. And Safecracker is a great poison target. It's just going to get bigger. So it's kind of good to eat poisons. And it means that ForeverYOLO doesn't really have much that he can interact with on Tollbliat's side when there's a Flying Redanian and a shielded Cleaver's Muscle.
Yep, and let's see now if ForeverYOLO is going to get that Cleaver down. Right now with the Crossbow on the board, this Cleaver will actually come down at 6 strength, as it will have that extra intimidate value with the Safecracker next to it. So let's see if ForeverYOLO is going to get this threat down. He doesn't have much coins in the bank to spend with the Cleaver, however. Poison, of course, from Tailbot isn't going to be doing a whole lot. Doesn't have a follow-up poison, but of course, ForeverYOLO doesn't know that. From his perspective, this could be a very threatening poison. However, we see a Neuromancy now being used from ForeverYOLO, taking the crit for a Purify, taking the bluff, and this does mean that Tailbot getting some actual value with that poison, as it did end up bluffing ForeverYOLO to use that crit on it.
So no K spend of Kurt though. Like, yes, he got baited and he could have used the Kurt for bounty, but you kind of have to play this a little bit safe. And bear in mind, for ForeverYOLO, he does have Siggy available, so he can get up to 9 coins really, really quickly, and that means that he can play things like the Tunnel Drill and just jam damage with it when he wants to. And Tobliat doesn't really have engines, right? You know, we've still got the Intimidate Halfling on ForeverYOLO side. Tobliat doesn't have that, so Tobliat still needs to develop his board a little bit at the moment. He does, however, have max coins.
Yeah, I mean, taking the Purify there does mean that ForeverYOLO will not be able to use it as for a bounty. So basically losing out on the bounty. As we see now, Tailbot will use the bounty onto ForeverYOLO's crit, and now things are starting to look a little bit awkward for ForeverYOLO, as he will not have a way to purify this any longer. So that poison actually ended up being very, very valuable for Tailbot, baiting out ForeverYOLO, using this crit, and now threatening a very big drill onto that crit. And that's the nice thing about the drill, is once you kill that unit with the bounty, it's just more ammo for the drill. You just keep the drill going, as it can actually end up doing so much damage on this board state. Things are actually looking quite scary for ForeverYOLO. Still has to get this cleaver done. Cleaver has been delayed so long, but this bounty is going to be quite devastating when drill is played from Tailbot.
Yeah, it's one of those points where it could completely decide the game, because although ForeverYOLO drew better and was able to establish cards earlier, that bounty, the thing with the drill is, the way you want to play the drill is you play the drill and you do as much as you can with it in one turn, because you assume it's going to die on the next turn. You know, that's how the drill works.
Not sure I like the positioning from ForeverYOLO. Playing the cleaver on the far left does mean that he doesn't get the pocket for the cleaver for future intimidates. I'm not sure if it's going to matter a whole lot, because it's probably going to get answered, but I don't really see a reason to commit it on the far left there. Probably not going to matter, but just a bit of a strange play to see. I guess he's playing around Tavern Brawl, perhaps. I guess that's what he's trying to do, playing around Tavern Brawl. I guess that's what he's trying to do, is playing around Brawl, because Tailbot still has the Brawl, but instead Tailbot's going to play the Philippa here, and Philippa trades is going to mean that it plays into Brawl regardless, but I guess it doesn't end up matching in the situation, as Tailbot now going to spend with his own cleaver and try re-establish a Crown Splitter pocket.
Do you expect the Tailbot to abduct your cleaver, then positioning it? I mean, I guess it doesn't make a difference, because positioning like this means that when it gets stolen back, it'll be next to the cleaver's muscle, but it would have been
I guess it's just
anyway.
Playing around Tavern Brawl. I forgot about the fact that Tailbot does in fact run a Tavern Brawl, so that makes sense.
Ready for the kidnap? It's coming. The return kidnap. He's just gone up to 6 coins. I don't see this going any other way than some Philippa on cleaver action. We saw it once, we'll see it again.
Yep, that does seem to be the case. And then that would leave Tailbot available to kill the cleaver with something like a Horson Junior or even a Heatwave, but probably just Junior, as we're going to see Philippa here. And okay, that is... he's playing on Tavern Brawl again, putting the Philippa there, trying to play around Tavern Brawl. Does end up cutting off his cleaver from the Crown Splitter, but of course, the threat of Tavern Brawl does exist. Tailbot does play Tavern Brawl, so doesn't want to play into the Tavern Brawl onto the Shield Jewel.
So Tobliat deciding when and where he wants to trigger his damage. And Wholesome Jr. here can deal with that Philippa. You can also just use it with the damage from the deploy plus the fee to deal with Cleaver's muscle. I really do like that as a cleanup. You know, we saw Cleaver go back and forth, and then finally slayed by another of the Novigradian gang leaders. It's just another day in Novigrad, boys and girls.
Yeah, so let's take a look now and see what ForeverYOLO is going to have to say about this. With that bounty still threatening so much with that. Although that being said, Tailbot doesn't have a double Crown Splitter on the board right now. There's no pocket for the drills. So Tailbot's not going to be able to spend as efficiently. Right now, ForeverYOLO does have a Crown Splitter pocket, so his drill will be that much more threatening. However, Tailbot does have the massive bounty value onto that card, so that will end up just feeding more ammo for the drill. And what this one could actually end up being quite close. 9 coins still in the bank for ForeverYOLO, 0 for Tailbot, but with 2 leader charges, this one may end up going right down to the wire.
Yeah, there's not really a good way for him to create a Crown Splitter pocket either, just looking at the cards he has in hand. I think he's just going to have to accept the 2 points of damage from the drill. It's not awful because of Kurt, right? Because Kurt's sitting there damaged, it's not too bad because you're going to get that bounty back, so it kind of negates the loss of a pocket. But Dip in the Pontar being used there by Tailbot, starting to get some money in the bank and just playing a little bit slow.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to get some coins in the bank for that Talon Ball. I think ForeverYOLO are going to play the drill right now. And I like this play from ForeverYOLO, getting this drill value before Tailbot's drill comes down and wipes out that save cracker, as this will be a very nice spender for ForeverYOLO. Going to just try and wipe out this board state for the time being, as we see down comes that value with that drill. And now the score line is 15 points in favor of ForeverYOLO, but Tailbot still has his own drill, still has last say with Heatwave, and still has a Neuromancer for his own gourd. It's not out of the question for Tailbot to still win this one, but it's definitely going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, ForeverYOLO does have Jacques, remember, and that is a decent amount of points. So let's get some drill on Kurt action. Then I'd imagine we maybe see some drill on drill action. Everyone's going burr at this point. Using the Horse and Junior there for the 3 points. I like it.
And now we're once again tied things up pretty much for Tailbot. It is so close. 3 cards each. 1 point separates these two. Dip in the Pontar will come down soon, and then followed up by maybe Jacques and Gourd. But again, Tailbot does have final say, so the Gourd isn't going to be all that threatening for Tailbot. But then again, Jacques is going to grow to a sizable amount either, so it's not like the Heatwave is going to be significantly better on the Gourd anyway. This is definitely quite a close one, with that shakedown still available for Tailbot to get some more drill ammo. But this drill only going to have to spend 2 coins for 2 points, which isn't going to be the most efficient drill ever, but still not bad at all, as Tailbot will end up. Man, look at the scoreline right now. It's neck and neck. Both of them have 5 coins in the bank. Just so little separating these two right now.
I mean, it's what, Jacques and Gourd versus a Neuromancer, Gourd and Heatwave. That's kind of what it comes down to.
I think ForeverYOLO wins, but I'm not 100% sure. It's really
because of these
close.
Spawns, maybe.
Yeah, because of the 2 spawns that come out here. I think this is ForeverYOLO's, but it's so close. Let's take a look and see what ends up happening here, as Tailbot does have that Neuromancy for the Gourd and a Heatwave still.
I think Tailbot's Gourd might be a little bit bigger, just in terms of the special cards played. There's 4 left in deck for ForeverYOLO versus 3 for Tailbot. So slight differential in the Gourd. Tailbot, 1 coin in the pocket, 5 in the bank. I'm not entirely sure how many coins ForeverYOLO had there. It is bloody close. I don't want to call it. I'm scared.
Yeah, it is really close. I'm not 100% sure how this is going to go. Let's take a look at how big this Gourd is going to be. Tailbot does have very few crimes within deck, which means this Gourd will be quite big. Here comes the Gourd, and this is going to come down for, I believe that is 12 points.
12.
And 13 points rather, because of the Neuromancy there. And now it's Gourd versus Heatwave. Actually, Tailbot takes it. Heatwave will be able to answer the Gourd. Tailbot will take it by 4 points. Very, very close series. Unfortunately for ForeverYOLO, his run has ended, and Tailbot will get into the grand finals. And by the skin of his teeth, they're very, very close game. That one was. What a final for this series. Wow, what a series we just watched, Jagras.
Yeah, we see ForeverYOLO giving a little thumbs up there to the camera. He knows that his jam is over. The jam has gone off. We left it in the fridge too long. It's a bit moldy. And Tailbot coming in with the game winner to make Jagras leader of the prediction polls. And I think that game came down to bounty a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think that Kurt was a very definitive play for ForeverYOLO here. I think this could have gone differently if maybe he kept that Neuromancy for something else, maybe keeping the Kurt for a bounty of his own. Could have been very threatening with his own drill, but that poison bait from Tailbot actually might have just won in that game.